The flower girl stares at the plant and demands, "Is this really magic grass?" While Harris only smirks, finally clocking the power. Hidden behind his plantmaster power, he can usually only appraise small stuff like this. Harris can't stop replaying his entire life how he dedicated everything just to turn that mono-filled grass into real medicine. Harris knows, if he stacks his research and trusts his crew, he can actually save the world. Then the dream crashes to a stop. Harris jolts awake at the Reynard Sanctuary in the royal capital, staring around like he's completely lost. Like he has no clue what just happened. His boss is losing his mind, yelling that he's fired him 1,000 times over, and Harris just stands there, totally stunned, like he has no clue what's happening. He's still trying to wrap his head around the news, but the boss shuts him down. This job uses healing magic, not herb research. And he's done tolerating it. Harris fights back, pounding the table and yelling that this research was his father's dream, and that it could save the whole kingdom, since healers are only in the capital. But the boss cuts him off cold, snapping at Harris to shut up and sneering at the whole idea of helping poor people. Director Dolence Renard just locks eyes with Harris, stares him down, and demands to know if he really needs to explain why he's getting kicked out for acting like it's the most obvious thing ever. He flat out says, "It's all about the money." And you can hear the bitterness when he admits he hated how the guy before him ran the place, because those old methods were just too soft. Dolence flashes a chilling grin as he brags that they're the only rich patients who can summon healing magic, like he's daring everyone else to doubt it. He starts snapping, warning that if Harris really makes medicine everyone can use, their easy money is going to vanish for good. Harris stood there trembling, realizing the whole place was total trash, and if he stayed, he'd never finish his real work. So he finally snaps and slams his ID card onto the desk, tells Dolence he's done with the sanctuary for good, but the boss isn't finished being a jerky. Lights a cigar, then orders Harris to get out before his research lab goes up in flames. Harris can't believe a word of it. He blurts out, "Are you serious?" And then he slams out the door at once to make sure his stuff is still there. When he finally arrives, the research shack is already engulfed in flames, and he freezes on the spot, gaping in total shock as everything he worked for turns to ash. While Harris just stares into the flames, someone strolls up and drops the news he's late and then walks off, leaving Harris standing there with his whole world gone quiet. The arsonists just stand there, cackling like maniacs, bragging that it feels amazing to watch the shack go up in flames and cost them nothing but profit, and one of them even slings weed at Harris, claiming the fire is the director's parting gift, making it painfully clear that they're soaking up every second of this. While Harris flips out, cursing under his breath as the goons yell that he needs to learn his place. But he's not about to just stand there, not with the guys shriek that Harris is officially banned from the royal capital, and he just whips his back on them and sprints straight into the flames. Heat, like a furnace, hits him hard as he crashes into this main. Everything's coming apart, boards are cracking and slamming down around him, and Harris has to throw his arms over his face just to push through the choking smoke, because if he stops now, he's done now. Not when he realizes his father's whole life of work is right in the middle of this disaster. He's back in that lab with his dad, and the idea of erasing that legacy crushes him. He stares, and he sees a notebook erupts in flames, and he lunges for it, thrilled they were finally this close to making the research actually help people, until his eyes catch something else. Something even more crucial is hiding in the corner. He shoves deeper into the blazing room, and even though the flames are racing like they've got a grudge, he forces the words out, "Get that one item before this whole place collapses." And then he lunges for the shelf, hand reaching for and snatches a tiny wooden box inside. A strange glowing seed sits there untouched and perfect. He exhales in relief, but the roof is already buckling. So Chris grips the box like it's his lifeline and bolts for the exit because he refuses to let anything happen to it, not even if the whole building is moments away from swallowing him alive. Harris yanked his book to his chest and threw his arm over his eyes as the heat surged when the flames pressed in. He could barely breathe, and then he bolts for the exit, suddenly wondering if he's hit his limit. Glances back one last time and sees everything else is already over, so the whole lab finally collapses straight into a blazing pile of charred wood, thick smoke swallowing everything. Harris just stands there, locked on the wreckage, watching his entire life's work burn to ashes as disbelief crushes him. With hollow eyes, he stares at the ruins, replaying every year of research and every memory he ever shared with his teacher, right up until it all comes crashing down. His pride, his dreams, and every last shred of hope get ripped away. Then he whips around, walks off from the wreck, and he starts walking away from the capital, convinced there's nowhere left for him to belong in this world. A brutal jolt rips through his arm, and he snaps his face into a wince. The burns from the fire are finally starting to sting, making it hits him somehow. He's already slipped out of the royal capital, and he can't even remember how he got this far. But he knows he's made it. But that sharp burn in his arm is actually snapping his thoughts into place. He whips his gaze toward the nearby plants, realizing he has to hunt down some magic herbs fast before the wound spirals out of control. Harris flicks on his special eyes and scans the plant's magic pulses through everything, and right away he spots healing vitality, grass and blue plum grass packed with water mana, the exact power he needs. To reach work, he relies on the plant master power he's had since forever. He can spot the hidden energy hiding in every single leaf, and when he snatches the two herbs, he knows exactly what he can unlock with. He can slap together a quick fix. First, he chops up the vitality grass, muttering that these so-called magic plants are just weeds, until someone figures out how to use them. He steadies every move, tucks the chopped pieces into a blue dew leaf, and seals them like a craft, because that's the only way raw plants become something truly useful. Once it's ready, he slams the wrap onto his burned arm and forces his own magic into it, and the mix snaps into real medicine right against his skin, making it snapped him back to why he started in the first place. He wanted this tech cheap, easy to find, help for even the poorest families. But then everything went wrong. He just stands there by himself, staring into the void, thinking about all the people out there who are exactly like he used to be. Folks with zero chance of paying for a real healer when sickness or injury hits. He lets out a small laugh because his arm is already fully healed. The potion worked exactly like Master Gustav taught him. And now, with the whole new world of medicine calling his name, he vows to build it. He clenched his fist until his knuckles went bone white, so close to pulling it off it felt like the dream was sitting right in his grip, right up. Everything crashes down at once. He's stranded out in the middle of nowhere, forced to stare the truth in the face. His life in the capital is over, and his research there is gone forever. Harris drops to the ground, scans his map, and realizes he can't just vanish. He has to go back and check on the patients he's been treating, the ones who couldn't travel to the capital. So he decides he won't leave them hanging when their lives are at stake. He crafts a plan and heads straight to Rosara's place first. It's a long walk, but after pushing through everything, he finally reaches the intruse right on the edge of the kingdom. There, he finds Lord Bailey and Lady Rosara, blurts out a rushed apology for showing up out of nowhere, but that couple lights up when he shows up. Bailey even tells him he's welcome anytime. Still, Rosara clocks that something's off and presses him. Did something happen at the sanctuary? And that's when it all ends with Harris standing by her bedside, finally ready to spill the truth. He starts with a shaky "actually," then lays out the entire mess. Bailey is totally stunned, calling it absolute stupidity to kick out talent like Harris, and you can tell he's furious, ready to fight for Harris. But Harris knows that if he keeps showing up here for official treatments, Dolan will zero in on this family too, because the interests are the nobles who run the whole area. Harris realizes that if he stays, the bond between this territory and the sanctuary will likely shatter, because he knows Bailey has to keep his people safe as their lord, and when that guy tries to drag the man into his mess, he slams the brakes hard and decides on the spot he's going to sneak Lady Rosara's medicine to her, no questions asked. And he tells himself, this public connection ends right now. If we don't, we'll drag them straight into the fallout. Bailey locks eyes with Harris and tells him, straight up, he still hasn't paid back the debt he owes. Harris is totally caught off guard, but Rosara just flashes a smile and tells him she could never forget what he did because she remembers every healer who quit on her. But Harris didn't. He poured every ounce of strength into saving her. He burned the midnight oil, grind himself to the bone night after night just to get her medicine finished. And she leans in and tells him, straight up, that both he and his research are absolutely extraordinary. Bailey stands proud and declares that the whole world finally needs to wake up and see just how great Harris truly is. Rosara gazes at him with pure kindness and tells him she just knows he'll be fine because she's seen his hard work up close firsthand, and she tries to talk to her husband, but Bailey cuts her off instantly and declares he's already made his decision. He thrusts out his hand and, right there in that moment, officially welcomes Harris into the Entrus family. Like the whole scene Harris just stands there, tears brimming in his eyes. He still can't wrap his head around what's happening. Bailey tells Harris not to stress over his messy sanctuary past because he's already cooked up a rock-solid plan, and he pushes Harris to move to Delos village, claiming the water and soil there are perfect for growing top-tier magic herbs. As Bailey strides out of the room, he leans toward Harris and tells him, "Let me talk to every place we've been hitting lately. I'll handle it." Rosara darts her gaze over, beams, and blurts that she's finally getting to help, then she calls out Harris's name. She grips his hand and tells him she's always needed his strength, and she still does now, because it's finally their turn to hold him up. Rosario whispers her thanks from the bed, and Harris can barely manage a strangled, "thank you," back while he just keeps. He crumples in tears, clutching his shirt like it's the only thing holding him together, because the truth of everything they've done for him finally crushes through. A little later, a carriage is already idling by the estate's main gates, ready to whisk Harris to his brand new home. Bailey yells after him, reminding him they've got his back, no matter what, always. Which makes Harris grin as he shouts back, "Thanks to you guys, I'm officially set for a fresh start." Bailey watched the carriage vanish down the road, fists clenched as he swore Harris had to tough it out, because the world badly needs someone like him. Then he starts scanning the list of home visit patients Harris left behind. And the second he hits the names, a cold sweat starts pouring down his spine, realizing this crew of patients is the lineup the territory's about to lose its mind. The story cuts to Delos village in the Kingdom of Noel, where the carriage finally rolls up in a peaceful little corner, windmills turning, small houses tucked in close. But the second Harris glances out the window, a huge man standing there snaps that he doesn't recognize his face at all. It's the village chief, Russell. He's almost shocked anyone would slip into this backwater at all. Then he leans in and demands to know who Harris really is. Harris hops out, offers a polite intro, and tells the chief he's been hoping to move in and live in the village for real. Russell is stunned by it, blurts out, "Weirdo," and then against his own instincts starts pulling him in, welcoming him to the community, until he gets a closer look at Harris's outfit, freezes mid-sentence, and blurts out, "Wait, are you actually a healer?" Suddenly, the chief's face twists with rage, as he screams that healers have always been abandoning folks like them to die. Russell storms straight into Harris's space, snarling in his face, then demands to know right on the spot if he's really a healer, not just all talk. Then a woman lunges into the scene, sobbing her heart out, begging Harris to save her daughter and swearing she'll pay anything, no matter what it costs, for the rest of her life. So Harris immediately shoots a yes and rushes in to help, even as Russell tries to block him from getting involved. He takes one glance at the kid's blazing fever and the rash crawling across her skin and instantly knows it's a brutal case of red lizard disease already spiraled way past the point of saving. When Mom asks if she'll be okay, Harris shoots back that she doesn't have to worry, because they can still get to her in time and save her. He knows regular healing magic won't cut it, so he dives into his bag and snatches the ingredients to craft a special medicine. He whipped powdered snakehead grass into the bitter liquid from boiled jinsetsu grass, then buried the whole mixture inside Suzuka leaves. The villagers huddle in confusion as Harris grabs the mixture and starts pumping his own mana into it to trigger the cure. Then, once it's finally ready, he leans in and softly tells the little girl to drink every last drop. A blinding light crashes over the girl as her healing finally kicks in. Then she snaps her eyes open and gasps for a mom. And everyone watching lets out a wave of pure relief. The mother yanks her daughter into a crushing hug, sobbing happy tears while Harris stands back, beaming with proud satisfaction. She's still sobbing her heart out, whispering, "Thank goodness," over and over. So relieved her little girl is safe. She flings her hands up in pure shock, yelling that it's all incredible and that the pain is totally, completely gone now. So when the mom thanks him again, Harris shrugs it off and tells her it's all in the job, and that he's just relieved she's finally better. Then he whips around to the village chief and tells Russell not to stress, he's not asking for a cent for this. As Russell stands there, stunned out of his mind, Harris drops the truth. He's not a healer at all. He's a magic herbalist. He leads them to the plants, then spills the truth his medicine is a rare, special blend brewed from ordinary magic herbs. And he's fuming with purpose, swearing he'll craft this medicine like magic, so the poor don't have to die anymore. Then he begs to stay in the village to dig into research. He locks eyes with Russell and pleads for one chance, swearing he'll prove how dead serious he really is. Russell drops his head and admits Harris isn't like those greedy healers, then rushes to apologize for how much of a jerk he'd been earlier. The little girl beams from ear to ear, shrieking for Harris to have good luck, while her mom stands right there, watching the moment with pride. As Russell tells Harris, "You're more than welcome here," he officially welcomes him as the magic herbalist into Delos village. Harris grabs the chief's hand, thanks him for the shot, and just like that, hope sparks in his chest, because it feels like everything's finally starting to turn around. He kept staring at how that academy never let him get anything done. Then, at last, he's finally around people who actually see his worth. He thrusts his fist in the air, certain he'll turn his dreams into reality here, while the villagers watch in awe. That same day, in a brand new town, a bird swoops over glittering buildings, clutching a letter in its beak like it's racing to deliver fate, and it drops right at a merchant's feet so lucky he can't believe he just got a message from Lord Bailey like this. The merchant finally breaks the seal, tearing open the letter to find out what the huge news is. And it's a message to every peer out there. Harris got fired from the sanctuary, but the Entru's family is stepping in and backing him with everything they've got. Rum Stockwell's eyes widen in disbelief as she reads it. Harris really got fired from the sanctuary. News about Harris hits the streets in a blink, and Jurek, an elite adventurer, instantly steps up, saying he's got her back and is ready to help. Victoria Entrus gets blindsided, staring at him as she demands, "So your own family is truly throwing their whole weight behind you." Macti the mage can't stop thinking, could this mean Harris is officially a free agent now? Even Emma Spadia, a top-tier noble lady, is convinced Master Gustav's apprentice is exactly the kind of talent worth snatching up. Back at the estate, Lady Rosara locks eyes as her staff scrambles at the news Harris's name is about to explode across the web any second, thinking that finally everyone would look past the rumors and see him for what he really was, a top-tier magic herb pharmacist. Back in the village, Russell and the crew greet Harris with open arms, and for once everything seems to be turning around. Yet that mysterious seed sitting nearby might be the real turning point. Harris is absolutely pumped to start over, while Russell can't help but feel guilty for dragging a guy all the way from the royal capital to some tiny backwater town, saying they don't have fancy ends, just a crusty old shack crouched on the edge of the village. But Harris is grinning anyway, thrilled simply to have shelter that keeps the rain off. He scans the village with a grin, knowing this is the exact place where his brand new life as a magic herbalist is about to explode into greatness. Russell skids up to a tree and tells Harris, "We finally made it, this is the spot." As Harris stares at the battered old shack, doubt slams into him like, is this really where his new life is supposed to begin? Russell stares at the building and blurts an apology, admitting he never knew the place had been smashed into this kind of wreck, while Harris just stands there, scanning it without a word. But Russell steps in, tells him to shake off the misery, and vows to help him get that house fixed up. Harris drops to his knees and scoops up a fistful of dirt, grinning like, "I don't even care having this forest and that river so close is everything." He stares at the ground like it's proof like his dream is finally about to come true. The chief leans in, curiosity blazing, and asks Harris how you're even supposed to grow magic herbs in the first place. So Harris breaks it down like this. It's basically the same as growing normal veggies. Dig up the soil and get to work, except here. Mana and magic energy are the real power behind the whole thing. Russell hears that and clenches his tool, blurting that he finally gets it. So if that's true, then he's fully fired up, and he tells Harris, "All right, move out and start farming." Russell tilts his head at the trees and blurts out that he wants to see it to a world where Harris's dream is finally real. He slaps a hand on Harris's shoulder and asks if he means a place where even the broke can get saved, and Harris lights up, saying that'd be the best thing ever. The two of them go full height mode, screaming they're making it happen for real. Harris shoots the chief a grateful nod, feeling insanely lucky that Rosara and Lord Bailey are watching his back. He pauses, takes a breath, and realizes this exact spot and that special thing he snagged from his dad's old research hut is everything he needs. After grinding through it all, they finally stare at their finished farmin'. Harris erupts, shouting that they pulled it off at last. They just lock eyes and grin at each other like the world can't touch them. Then Harris yanks out a tiny box and declares it's go time, no more stalling. Russell peers into it, totally baffled by the logic. But Harris just smirks and asks if it looks like seeds to him. They're real, and trust me, these are the kind of special you don't get twice. Harris stares at the special seeds, wondering why his dad left them behind. He's sure they're Ron seeds, but his mind can't stop buzzing with what might happen next. Suddenly, the ground flares with a brutal glow, and Russell screams as the dirt in front of them literally explodes into light. Vines and flowers explode out of the ground at insane speed, twisting together into a human shape, and then, right in the middle of the garden, a tiny girl with rose petal hair pops into view, and Harris just freezes there, mouth hanging open, unable to move as a little girl starts to topple. And Harris shoots out his hand, catches her in time, and makes sure she's okay. He locks eyes on her, trying to wrap his head around it. This kid is really an all wrong. She doesn't look like any monster he's ever seen, and then, just like, she lunges into his arms and belts out, "Papa," with the biggest grin on her face. Russell just hangs back, totally stunned, mumbling "Papa" over and over like he can't process what he's hearing. Harris keeps the girl at arm's length and tells her to hang on for a second because he's absolutely not her dad. She just grins even wider and tells him, "Since I was born from your magic, you're my papa no matter what." Russell just freezes, staring at the kid in pure shock. How could something like this just burst out of a seed? Harris scrambles to explain that she's basically an all-round magical plant familiar, but even he's starting to look like he can't fully believe it. He can't make sense of what's going on. Then he spots it, a little girl staring hard at a busted old shack in the distance, and he asks if she's worried about the whole place in shambles. He admits house is a stretch because it's basically falling apart and begging for a ton of repairs. But then, the girl snaps out of his arms, yells that she'll fix it herself, and Harris just freezes there, blurting out confused sounds. While she sprints straight for the ruins, he just stares after her, shocked that a tiny kid is even supposed to fix a whole building by. All alone, she barrels up to the shack and starts talking to it, telling it she gets why it collapsed into ruin, because nobody lived there, nobody kept it company. No more hesitation. She stares at the old wood with a grim face and tells the building, loud and clear, that she's about to pour her power into it. She tells the house, get well soon. And boom, an enormous wave of light and glitter explodes into the air, wrapping around the hole. The old rotting wood shudders in her grip, and her magic makes it glow and change before your eyes. Harris and Russell are left totally stunned. Russell yells that it looks brand new, then freaks out like, wait, was that kid really just chatting with a shed? The flower girl dives her hand into Harris's belt pouch, snatches up a fistful of seeds, and tells him they've got to let every little one out too. Harris stares as she holds those seeds out to him, grilling her about whether they're truly magic grass seeds, while she just flashes a smile like it's no big deal. Then hurls them into the sky and barks, wake up, and boom, a gigantic garden of flowers and living plants erupts into existence. Leaving both guys frozen in absolute shock, Russell blurts that it's unbelievable, because he always knew she was something special, while Harris can't stop thinking, this isn't normal, not even close. The little girl bursts into laughter, tilts her head up at Harris, and asks if he thinks she's amazing. He ruffles her hair and tells her, straight up, that she's absolutely amazing. Thinking to himself that, sure, her power is wild, but she still looks like an ordinary little girl. Russell just hangs back, utterly wiped out by the whole mess. The village chief tells Harris he should just be grateful he's got a cute daughter. Then, right on cue, the girl screams, Papa, Harris! Harris immediately panics, blurts that being called Papa is way too embarrassing, and tells her to just use his name instead. She slaps her palm into his for a high five and blurts out a sweet, cute nickname for him. And he just grins back, saying it's nice to finally meet her. Harris stares at the girl, shocked that she looks like any normal kid even with those wild powers, and then he decides he's going to give her a cute little name. Russell watches her work, then blurts out that the way she repairs houses and grows plants is straight up goddess level, like she's a forest spirit, and that hits Harris hard enough to make him start thinking. The village chief digs out an ancient amulet, then drops that around here. There's an old legend passed down for ages about a village guardian named Leela Shalditis, forest god everyone swears turned a barren wasteland into a living home, building houses and coaxing crops from the dirt. Harris hangs on every word, then mouths Lelushalite under his breath, wrestling it down until it turns into something like Lelusha. He stares out at the trees and asks the girl how Leisha sounds, to her testing the name like it matters. She stares up at him with wide eyes, and when he says, since we're borrowing it from a goddess, that means its official name is going to be, she hangs on every word. She bursts into cheers, spins and dances around, screams her new name at the top of her lungs. I'm Leisha now. Russell just stands there in the background, watching her celebrate, and mutters that she must genuinely love it so. Yeah, the name fits perfectly. Harris thrusts his hand forward and tells Leisha he can't wait to team up with her from here on out. Leisha tilts her head up at Harris, grinning ear to ear, and tells him it's great to meet him, then blurts, Harashu? And just like that, she's officially a girl born from a magic herb. Night drops over the village, and a wild party kicks off. Maids sprint through the streets, juggling trays of drinks for everyone as the moon looms overhead. Russell pops up to deliver a proper speech, introducing the magic herbalist Harris and his brand new familiar, Leisha, to the whole village. Then some guy in the crowd screams at him to hurry up and wrap it because it's dragging on forever. The chief just shrugs it off and goes along with them, and boom, everybody in the village erupts into one huge shout, welcoming Harris and Leisha home. Everyone lifts their beer barrels at once, roars cheers, and slams them back to kick off the celebration. The little girl Harris rescued comes trotting in with a plate of food, looking perfectly fine as she grins and tells him she's finally all better now. Harris flashes a warm smile, tells her he's glad she's okay, and urges her to stop by again the next time she feels even a little off. The kid beams. Then she spots a tiny flower girl and blurts to Harris, wait, is she the Leisha you told me about? Harris tells her it's okay and begs her to be a true friend, while Leisha hangs back a little too shy and asks the girl to be kind. The girl says, nice to meet you, then snatches Leisha's hand and yanks her along to hunt down Cake, while Harris just stands there watching them disappear. Harris watches Leisha stroll away with the girl, cake in hand, grinning like he just won, because they're already accepted everywhere in the village. Russell leans in, grin blazing, and asks Harris if he's having a good time, while some guy in the back yells about how fast they're going through the booze. Harris is grinning like crazy, saying the food and drinks are unreal, and that's when Russell goes full bragger, claiming their local booze is so legendary it's famous even in the capital. The chief's joking smile drops for a second. Then he leans in and demands why the Holy Institute would ever throw a top-tier herbologist like him out. Harris blurts out an awkward laugh, mumbles that he wishes the old director felt the same, and then his mind races back to the moment that guy booted him out. Russell tells him, "Arrogant people always end up wrecking their own lives sooner or later, so look at Harris, stay honest, and that's the smartest way to live." Harris takes another drink, staring into the glass as he reminds himself, sure, these folks are a little rough around the edges, but deep down, they're solid through and through. Staring out at the party lights and the crowd roaring under the moon, Harris finally clicks. He's genuinely thrilled he decided to come to this village. As the party rages through the whole night, the sun finally claws its way over the rooftops, burning the skyline as dawn creeps in, leading into It was a brutal morning. Everyone was sprawled and knocked out cold on the tables, and Harris was the worst of it, slumped over a barrel completely out of his mind. Harris slumps on a bench outside, groaning that he totally wrecked himself with the drinks, but in his head he can't deny it. It's been ages since a party hit this hard. Leisha strolls up and asks if he's okay, but Harris can barely choke out, "I'm fine," doubled over the table. He snaps to it like, "I've got the perfect cure for this hangover," and tells Leisha he grew magic herbs yesterday, cooling spring herbs, mixed with heat herbs, so he can brew a fast fix. After he pours that herbal mix into a couple of mugs, the two of them slam it back together. Harris suddenly perks up, throws his fist in the air, and yells that the moment the fog lifts, he feels 100 times better. He shoots Leisha a quick "thanks," and she throws up a proud pose, flashing a smile like, "You can always count on me for stuff like this." Harris decides to spread the wealth, tells everyone else to give it a shot, and right then, a brutally hungover Russell stumbles in asking what he's actually drinking. The second the tea hits Russell's system, his eyes snap wide open as the medicine kicks in. The villagers burst into awe, saying it feels unreal, like sprinting through a meadow by the sea, or letting a warm spring breeze wash straight through your whole body. Russell suddenly realizes that nasty heartburn is totally gone, and everyone wastes no time thanking Harris and Leisha for rescuing them from a brutal morning. Harris and Leisha steal a peaceful moment together, grinning like the morning finally nailed it. And you just know something's coming. When everyone wipes the last sip of tea, they stare in disbelief. The magic medicine doesn't just cure diseases, it hits hangovers just as hard too. Russell yells that he can finally drink as much as he wants, free of worries, while Harris begs him to slow down. Then a villager comes sprinting in, shouting that a massive emergency has just erupted. The guy's gasping for air as he blurts that a whole line of carriages with crests just rolled into the village, making Russell stare in total confusion, wondering who on earth could be coming. The messenger carves a symbol in the air, a teardrop outline packed with scales, and he's almost positive it's the exact one he saw. Harris clocks it on the spot and blurts out if it's Stockwell's work, but Russell refuses to accept it, snapping that he must have misread everything, because if those signs are real, then something's off. There's no chance a legend with a name that huge would ever stoop to bother a little nowhere village like theirs. Turns out it really is the Stockwell Company, the world-class trading powerhouse that almost never steps off the usual road. But the carriage line is already right there, and the driver shouts that they've finally reached Delos village. A voice crackles from inside the carriage, quickly thanking them, and the coachman fires back that they absolutely nailed a trip that long. Rome leans out from the lead carriage and stares at the quiet village below, stunned to realize Harris is really going to stay somewhere this peaceful. As the head of the world-famous Stockwell Trading Company, Rome is absolutely certain this is the turning point. He believes their new medicine is finally about to blow up across the globe. The doors yank open, and a massive squad of suited staff spills out straight up. It's the legendary 88-suit Legion, rolling into the village like they own the place. Russell swears those carriages are 100% from the Stockwell Company, but Harris just stands there baffled, wondering why they dragged along such a massive crowd. The girl hops down from the carriage, and Harris starts to piece it together, asking, "Wait, are you really Rome?" The moment her eyes catch him, her face lights up, and she screams his name like she's been holding her breath for this reunion for ages. She doesn't even wait for them. She bolts straight at the group, and the guys just freeze, staring as she sprints toward them. She finally catches up and yanks Harris's hands right away, grinning as she blurts out how thrilled she is that they're meeting again at last. Harris is completely thrown by this sudden burst of energy, and he stammers out, Who even are you?" Rome takes a breath, settles down, and bows with a quick apology, admitting he's been running late and should have introduced himself properly. Rome kicks off her pitch to Harris, promising she can fetch everything from basic breakfast bread to literal dragon nail clippers. The whole squad of suited workers freezes behind her, eyes locked on her like they're ready to snap to her every command. She steps up and declares, loud and clear, that she's the Stockwell Trading Company's second-gen head, the best merchant alive right now. Then it hits her. Maybe she moved way too fast when she sent a message bird ahead, but her carriage still beat it to the punch. The little bird drops onto her finger and hiccups, while Russell fires off the explanation that the entire village is still stuck nursing a brutal 3-day hangover. Loam spins around, eyes wide, praising the crystal-clear air and water like they're the real secret, and then he's like, "That's why this vintage wine tastes so damn good." She tries to push the drink into wider circulation, but Russell slams her down, instantly claiming the recipe is a village secret. Russell is blown away by how much she knows about this backwater town, and as he presses her on who she really is, the Stockwell name hits the air like a bell that won't stop ringing. Out. Turns out it's the biggest guild in the whole kingdom, swapping every kind of treasure and gear you can dream up. Kobe built this empire from the ground up in just one generation, and now his 17-year-old child is taking full control. Harris drives the introductions forward, laying out how Rome has been training since he was a kid, then drops the shocker. The kid's own logic somehow outsmarts his father, so Rome ends up a top-tier merchant on his own. Russell is hit with a brutal shock as the chief stares at Rome and snaps that it's impossible because the kid looks exactly like a girl. Rome just shrugs it off and rubs the back of his head like, yeah, people pull that mistake all the time. Harris doubles down hard and tells him, don't judge the outside, Rome is 100% a boy. The second Russell and the other village guys hear the truth, their minds snap because they can't process it at all. Even with that cute face and all those flowery vibes, one thing's crystal clear. Rome's Stockwell is 100% a guy. Pushing through the chaos, Harris turns to everyone and blurts out that he's just thrilled to see Rome thriving again. That's huge. Because when he was a patient, the Holy Institute had already written Rome off, left him to rot like they'd abandoned him for dead. That's when Harris finally stepped in with his miracle herbs. Now Rome is brimming with smiles, and everyone's telling Harris he saved their lives and healed their health. While everyone shatters, Risha slips off to the side and quietly watches the whole scene unfold in front of her. Rome drops to a knee to meet Lisha face to face, flashes her a friendly grin, and asks her name. Lisha grins, blurts out her name, and asks what brings him here. Then Rome finally tells her the truth. He's not just passing through, he came to visit Harris. Harris is totally stunned. He'd even process it as Rome rolls up with an entire guild squad and he blurts, "Okay, what's going on?" Rome snaps him out of it, saying the moment he heard Harris got fired, he bolted over here like his life depended on it. The kid bursts into a loud rant and tears into Harris, screaming that he's way too careless with his own well-being. Rome goes straight for the jugular. Now that Harris is finally free from the Holy Institute, his herb research can actually change the world, and a quick wink that basically told Harris, we don't just respect your research, we're ready to back you all the way. Rome pats the supplies like it's nothing personal. But the message is crystal clear. This is turning into a legit merchant deal, not some casual favor. He whips back to Harris and pleads, asking one last time if they can talk about the magic herbs. And Russell jumps in too, saying he's curious, when the little girl whips her hand up and yells that she refuses to get left out. Harris lifts up a plain-looking weed and nods like, see? It's nothing special. And the group just goes along with him as he talks. And then he breaks it down for you. Magic grass isn't some mythic treasure at all. It's just a plain old weed that grows anywhere. The real secret is the plant's power. It's made to drink in every kind of mana floating in the air and lock it all away for later. But most of the time, that power just evaporates into nothing, unless you're a top-tier mage who can actually lock it in and keep it from fading away. But the weed flips everything, because the mana sealed in that magic grass stays steady, and it's way easier to control. Victoria takes a slow, deliberate sip from her cup, weighing every thought in her head while she realizes it's exactly like carrying water, your hands can't grip it. But the plant becomes a living cup, letting her move it around. Harris is blown away, tells her she's razor sharp, and says if you blend those herbs just right, they'll heal anyone, even if they've got zero magic in their blood. He lifts the crushed-up mess like it's sacred magic herb potion, and declares it with total confidence. And Russell stares at the evidence in total disbelief, blurting out, so this is what Harris has been cooking all these years? And the guy just nods calmly like it's no big deal. Sloan nods to the plan while Harris explains that his appraisal power lets him read exactly what the plants are about to do. Victoria clocks it right away. He's still fumbling around trying to mix and process everything every single way, and she thinks that would be an absolute nightmare to sit through. She's genuinely shocked that something as plain as weeds can be turned into real legit medicine like this. The group decides they're heading out, and Harris practically explodes with excitement. He pushes for everyone to go check the fields together. All four of them rush to the garden fence, ready to see how the progress is coming along. Victoria can't believe how fast everything's exploding in size, especially since Harris only just rolled into the village a short while ago. Harris just smirks, pats Leisha on the head, and tells the crowd it's all her power driving that crazy growth, while Leisha smugly pranes like she's the greatest thing ever. He's caught off guard by just how well it's working, and as he dips into a bag of seeds, he swaggered over to Leisha, told her it was time to wake the kids too, and she snapped off a quick salute before jumping straight into action. Victoria just stares as he walks away, her brain screaming. What the heck does he mean by waking up a bunch of plants? Leisha rockets into the air with a deafening shout, flaunting her moves in the garden as Harris and the rest stare in awe. Victoria stares at the thriving plants and realizes this Leisha's power backing them up means Harris's research is about to skyrocket faster than ever. She promises they'll brew every kind of magic elixir to rescue patients everyone else has already written off as incurable. And once they crack the process, they can whip up the medicine even if the person at the table has 0 mana and 0 talent. Harris nods along, grinning like, yeah, this is exactly what I and my dad, Master Gustav, have been chasing all along. Loam jumps in, gassing up the guild. With tech this versatile, they can crank out and ship healing magic by the masses, so it won't be the only lifeline anymore. So yeah, this is the Holy Temple's worst nightmare. Its grip on healing is about to shatter, and the whole throne-built system of absolute control is going to come crashing down. Victoria stands frozen in silence, and then it hits her. Everything is shifting right before her eyes. The whole crew huddles in the open field, staring at those plants like they're the first spark of a brand new future for everyone. So Victoria flips in action, saying the Stockwell Company is fully ready to back Harris's herbal research. Harris tells them this is even better than he ever dreamed. But then he snaps. Are you really sure? Because teaming up with him means you're burning your relationship with the Holy Academy for good. Victoria doesn't hesitate. She's already expecting it. And she's more than okay with walking away from them. Harris relives the day they tossed him out and torched every shred of his research, wiping him to 0, forcing him to rebuild from scratch with nothing but his own memory and experience. Victoria is fuming, claiming the Academy doesn't just ignore magic potion potential, they actively sabotaged him in the most twisted way imaginable. Loam steps in and lays it out this temple's ego, and the way they've been calling the shots finally shoved their guild right to the edge. And he calls it out business runs on trust. But you can't bank on that from the Holy Temple anymore. Victoria locks eyes with Harris and tells him, I trust you, because you're the one who saved my life. And then she adds, her voice shaking with respect, that she can't stop admiring how he's still fighting to save others even after they turned his work to ashes. Village Chief Russell watches them, and it hits him hard. Victoria isn't chasing money at all. She's been fully swept up, just like everyone else, by Harris. Victoria tightens her grip on her crest and vows she'll back Harris heart and soul and stand by him through every step of her work as a merchant. She lays it out. Stockwell's whole philosophy is business that helps the seller, the buyer, and society, keeping everything fair and balanced for everyone. Victoria cracks open her past and admits the truth. Harris broke every rule the Holy Academy lives by just to keep her alive, so she spent all this time grinding her merchant skills day after day to repay him. She's dead sure that if they fuse his top-tier research with her family's massive funding, they'll finally reach the moment when magic potions take over the world. She reaches for his hand, glowing like a sunrise, and tells him they're going to change the world together. Harris stares at the horizon, stunned that he's walking the same road as the person in his mind only. Now he finally sees a chance to save way more people, especially because he's teamed up with the very same boy he saved years ago. So he shoots his hand out and tells her, loud and clear, that he's absolutely in on this deal. They seal their partnership with a firm handshake, and Harris leans in, telling her he's putting his trust in her, because this has to happen. After a few days, the peaceful village suddenly explodes with noise as a massive wooden frame for a brand new building rises into the sky. Village Chief Russell can barely breathe. He's staring in stunned disbelief as a branch of the world-famous Stockwell Company rises right in a place like theirs. Victoria stands right beside him, beaming as she thanks the village for letting them set up their brand new headquarters for the Magic Herb Division. Seeing their progress crush it like this, Harris can't help but lean in and ask the group if it's time to start expanding their own business operations too. Chief Russell was in the middle of explaining herb production when a villager burst in, screaming that a massive emergency had just hit. The chief whips around, glaring like thunder, and snaps, "What on earth is happening now?" He gasped for air and snaps at the moment they were busy out gathering. A massive monster stormed in and wiped them out. Harris and the others stare in disbelief, and Harris grabs him and demands, "Say it again, what just happened at?" Deep in the woods, a hulking muscular orc erupts in a savage roar as it swings its club through the air. A worker barely throws himself aside as that massive weapon crashes into the ground inches from his face. His buddy rushes over to check on him, and there he sits dazed, blood streaming from his head. They grab him and drag him out, yelling for everyone to scatter, praying Harris can stitch up those wounds once they finally get back. They snap to it. 3 orcs are closing in at once, and it's insane. Because monsters that high rank never come this close to the village. They sprint on, burning through every second, because they've got to reach the village and hand that message to the Capitals Guild before things spiral even further out of control. Turns out that just suits thing was only the beginning. Now an entire army of orcs is storming into the area. Harris says he heard 3 orcs showed up, and the village chief snaps completely, demanding if everyone's okay. One of the escapees manages to get out, then gasps that the monsters are right on his heels, barreling toward the village. Chief Russell roars that they're stopping those guys right here, ordering anyone who can hold a weapon to step up and follow his lead. Meanwhile, news races to the adventurers at the guild, evacuate everyone. And they're told to deliver a message straight to the capital. Harris can already feel the bloodshed coming, so he tells Russell, "I'm coming with you. I'll help the wounded." They spot a bunch of villagers fast, and Harris barrels over immediately to start checking every injury. They're all relieved they made it out, but one of them snaps. "Wait, there are still people trapped up ahead, deeper on the path." Russell tells Harris to stay put and zero in on the medical work while he takes care of all the heavy lifting. He snatches up his axe with a cocky grin, bragging that he was a real adventurer back in the day and that a few orcs won't stand a chance. Harris snaps at the villager to move and stay out of danger, swearing that he's way tougher than he looks while. As he straps on the medicine and gets the guy's arm patched up, he fires off one clear warning his injuries are fine, so it's time to march back to the village. The man thanks him for the help, then leans in and warns him, "Out there, you'd better watch your back, because things are coming." So Harris vows he'll stay careful, insisting Russell and the best guards are on their side to keep everything locked down. But the guy's shaking like a leaf and blurts out that this isn't anything like you think, it's way worse. He makes it clear it's not a few orcs out there. It's a gigantic horde, and Harris just freezes on the spot in total disbelief. Up ahead, Chief Russell is already trading blows in a brutal brawl, barely scraping by as one monster's crushing smash comes down on him. One of the other fighters screams that the numbers are totally wrong, and when he looks up, he realizes it's not 3. It's at least 20 orcs closing in on them. Victoria starts to spiral as she stares at her dwindling supplies. She knows her chances are grim, and she's basically out of magic tools. Things spiral fast when an orc creeps up on her, and Russell has to blast a warning yell for her to look behind her before it's too late. Victoria rockets through the woods, gripping a seed for dear life, terrified she won't reach the moment in time. As she screeches for Leisha to take the seed, slinging it toward her with every ounce of strength. And then boom! Vines burst from the ground and slam around the orc, locking him in a thick, thorn-choked trap. Harris bursts in right on time, finally breathing easy that he made it, while Victoria fires off a huge thank you for saving her and can't help staring at the plant, like, "What is this thing?" Harris tells them it's called Vin Binweed. This wild magic plant doesn't just grow, it slams down and crushes entire buildings. And he finally admits the only reason he even thought to use it was Leisha's wild plant growth power. But the wind still feels way too short because the orc starts flexing, and those massive muscles snap the vines like they're nothing at all. Harris realizes all that brutal power is buying them mere moments, but he vows he'll keep backing them up. Things are going bad fast. Harris blurts that they're nearly out of herbs, and the whole crew is still getting stomped, totally outmatched. So Chief Russell barks the order everyone's about to get swallowed, and they need to retreat right now. Harris and the others huddle at a distance as Jurek slips into position, right behind that massive oar, ready to make it move. He moved like lightning, slamming a brutal slash into the orc's throat and blasting blood across the air. As she keeps her cool, tells everyone to wait a second while she scrambles to clean up the chaos she just caused. And Harris can't stop staring at the girl in the hood, wondering who she really is beneath the She plunges straight into the heart of the pack, streaking past their weapons with freaky, lightning-fast speed. Harris can't even process what he's seeing. Jurek's flipping through the air, shredding multiple targets in one breath, and she strolls off without a care as the orcs behind her crumple to the ground from her lightning-fast strikes. And Harris clocks her instantly, straight up asking if that's really Jurek while Russell is completely stunned, demanding to know who she is because she's unbelievably strong. So Harris blurts out the truth. She's tied to the Steel Fangs. She's Zoan's daughter, the guy who leads their entire Beastman clan. Russell finally clocks that they're a top-tier crew, and that's why she's basically toying with 20 orcs, because they just get shredded as they plow right through them. Jurek stands dead center in the chaos, where 20 orcs lie scattered across the ground, completely wiped out by the girl's insane speed. Russell and the villagers are left completely speechless after what they just witnessed. Jurek swivels back to the group and throws up a casual thumbs up. This girl is the real deal, pure top-tier adventurer through and through. She strides up to Harris and blurts that it's been ages. Haitian thanks her for saving him, but the moment the relief hits, confusion kicks in. Why is she even here in the first place? So Jurek tells her, I heard you moved to the nearby village. Then she spots the chaos on the road, decides to jump in and help. But Harris is still stunned. He blurts out why she's here now, when her clan is supposedly just one step away from wiping the Stardust Labyrinth clean. Jurek just smirks and tells him, you're a massive benefactor to the Steel Fang crew. Adventurers don't ever forget a debt. Harris clocks it. She's still ice calm even after the brawl, and Jurek admits it was Harris who taught her how to stay cool, read the situation, and not panic. And she flashes back to those rookie days when she got way too cocky, landed in a nasty situation, and left her father no choice but to step in. And in that flashback, a doctor studies her dad's leg and snaps that it's basilisk venom, and the only way to save him is to cut it off. The healer screams that if Jurek's dad loses his leg, his whole career dies. Then little Jurek breaks down, sobbing and yelling that it's all her fault. She yanks the healer's coat, pleading for her father's life, but he just turns his back and strides off like he doesn't care. He snaps at her, slams her as annoying, and spits out that if they're really determined to keep that leg, then they might as well die together right now. Jurek gets left there, alone, shaking with sobs and barely choking out a word, when a younger Harris suddenly darts right past the jerk healer, bursting into the room and demanding they let him see the patient right now. Harris locks eyes on Jurek's dad and realizes the poison and petrification are spreading as one, and he knows that if he taps into his dad's research, he can cure both at the same time. While Jurek keeps bawling for help, and Harris shoots her a look of pure confidence, then tells her he's going to cure him, so she'd better sit tight and watch him work. He grabs his medical kit, snaps it open, and tells her the cockatrice poison has to be fought at the exact same time as the petrification. Then he turns to the little girl and asks if she's ready to help him. He doesn't just ruffle her hair like some big brother. He tells her she's a good girl, but only after she wipes those tears and forces herself to stay calm. Harris guides them through the treatment, telling her to rub the cure in while the antidote kicks in. Then he watches her closely and softly urges her to slow down just a bit. Harris keeps her eyes on the treatment, whispering to Jurek to stay calm while they work. And the little girl clenches down inside her chest, telling herself she has to read the situation. And Harris grinds through his training, nailing every step to stop the poison from spreading any farther. The two of them grind through the night, and just as the sun climbs up, they slam the finishing touches and wrap it all up. Zoan suddenly flings himself off the bed, muscles bulging as he roars like he's been charged with pure life. Zoan yanks his daughter into a massive hug as happy tears spill down her face, because Harris's treatment worked flawlessly, and he's back again. And right back in the present, Jurek wraps up the tale for the group, and you can see it like she's reliving that moment all over again. She tells her Harris didn't just rescue her father that day. He ripped her out of the jaws of total despair. Tears spill into her eyes as she stares at him, overflowing with respect and gratitude she can barely even describe. She tells everyone that if her hero got fired in such an unfair way, then of course it's on her to step up and help him right now. Jurek tells Harris to dump all the rough work on her and her team, and Harris only smiles back like, finally, it's a huge relief having her there. Zoan looks totally relieved as he tells the crew, turns out we needed muscle way sooner than I thought. And then he admits that's exactly what he'd expect from a crew like the Steel Fangs, and he keeps the good vibes rolling, laughing like they can bulldoze through anything life throws at them. But Harris is clearly on edge, snapping at the big guy to stop cursing them before it actually turns into disaster. With the last orc finally driven away, Zoan snaps and tells everyone it's time to pack up and march back to the village. They're already yelling about tossing another massive feast the second they step inside, and Jurek just can't wrap his head around it. He blurts, "Are you really partying again this soon?" As the crew starts rolling out, Jurek suddenly locks up right in place while Harris spots her lagging behind and blurts her name, like, "What's wrong?" But she just fixes him with a stare into the trees and tells him the fight isn't done, then lays it out. Orcs usually travel in small packs, so seeing a horde this huge, that's straight up not normal. As Harris repeats her words, a sick dread crawls in. Then, out of nowhere, a whole flock of birds panics and explodes into the sky. She tore away to confirm his worst fears while she drew her daggers locked in and blazing, because she swore the leader was finally stepping out of the shadows. The whole crew slams into a tight defensive circle, weapons up, while Jurek shouts a warning company's about to crash the party. A colossal, terrifying orc warlord smashes through the trees with a massive blade clenched in his grip, and just like that, boom, the real fight erupts. Harris whirs for the team to finish the final boss, but Jurek snaps back that this threat is a whole different beast. She tells everyone to back off, then storms forward like she'll end it by herself. Then the monsters unleash a brutal blast of wind and the swing slams into them, tossing Harris and the others backward like nothing, fighting to stay upright while they can barely hold their ground. Harris can't wrap his head around it. The sword's pressure alone hit with that kind of force. Turns out this orc lord isn't just strong. He's a rare, elite leader with power that towers over everyone else. It turns into a disaster-class monster that could wipe out an entire village, and Harris can't stop thinking, why is something this deadly out here in the first place? Zohan has to admit he grossly misjudged just how dangerous this is, and when Jurek rushes in, the shockwaves hit so violently she can't get anywhere near the beast. Zohan watches Jurek struggle, feeling totally helpless, and he can't stop wishing he could step in and finally help. Suddenly, Lisha launches into a sprint straight for the fight, and Harris jolts with shock, yelling her name as she vanishes into the chaos. She catches death in her peripheral vision as a chunk of debris rockets toward her. She throws herself aside at the last second, heart pounding, already knowing that was way too close. Harris barrels over the second she slams to the ground, panicking, begging her to tell him she's okay after a move that brutal. Leisha glances back, a fresh scratch across her face, eyes locked in pure focus, then tells Harris, "Your friend is pushing herself out there, so I've got to step up too." Harris watches Leisha gamble it all, and the hesitation snaps the steps in and tells her he's ready to go all in, no matter what it costs, then asks her straight up how he can help. Then he asks Leisha to lend him a hand for the plan, and she's all in, while Jurek's still stuck in the back, fighting tooth and nail just to stay in the fight. Zohan yells, demanding to know what Harris is up to, while Victoria screams that whatever he's doing is far too dangerous. But Harris totally ignores them and flicks seeds toward the monster, barking at Leisha to handle it. Then, the moment those seeds hit, they burst into thick, thorny vines that slam shut around the orc lord. The beast thrashes and tangles itself, and Jurek rockets in to hammer it with a strike before it can break free. Russell clocks that the monster doesn't even twitch as the vines slam in, while Victoria's worry spikes by the second. Victoria tells Harris to stare at Leisha's face, and the moment he does, it hits him. Something is terribly wrong. Leisha looks completely, making Harris wonder if he pushed her too far as he realizes she doesn't have unlimited magic and that her breaking point is right on the edge. He pauses, racks his brain, and remembers it. Leisha was born from a seed, forged with his own magic. If that's truly the rule, then he lunges in, grabs her, and demands she just channel his magic power straight through so the fight doesn't stop. Leisha locks eyes with him and says it's not much, but he should take every scrap she's got. Harris doesn't even flinch and promises he'll use that power, so Leisha grins and thanks him. And you can tell she feels like she's got the strength to keep going now, and somehow the two of them finally click into perfect sync, and Harris clings to her tight as they stare down thorny vines that surge forward like they're breathing. Harris knows all he can do against a normal orc is buy time stall, survive, repeat, but when an orc horde is in the picture, even snagging a few seconds feels like trying to stop a storm with bare hands. But if he can just keep the big guy busy for a moment, it could be the crack he needs to flip everything around, while the orc lord is fighting for his life, ripping at the magic plants that trap him and refusing to stay tangled any longer. Jurek spots the opening and snaps to Harris that this distraction is secretly a massive advantage she's locked in, about to strike, because Horace spots it. Jurek is back in the fight now, and she rockets into the air, then crashes down on the monster like a deadly shadow. She yanks her daggers out mid-flight, locks onto a single target, and unleashes one razor-clean strike. The blade plunges deep into the orc lord's neck. Blood erupts across the air as Harris and Leisha watches from below. The huge orc lord finally cracks, lunging forward as blood bursts across the ground. Harrison and Leisha step back and watch the monster slam into the dirt. The whole group erupts into cheers. Russell hoists his axe sky high as everyone celebrates the win. But Harris just stands there, staring, completely drained. He fights to spit out a word, then his legs collapse under him, and he desperately begs for help as he starts to fall. Leisha and Victoria shriek his name as he crashes face first into the ground. Russell slams down beside him and instantly sees it. This guy's completely out of mana. He can't believe Harris actually burned it all up recklessly. The crew huddles up and decides they're hauling Harris back to the village so he can sleep off the chaos. They split the luggage, and they start mapping out how to report the attack to the capital, completely clueless that a mysterious girl lurks in the treetops, staring them down. Then she clocks Harris as the magic herb apothecary and whispers the thought to herself that that tiny crew is totally about to turn into a massive problem later on. She hops down, plants her feet on the dead monster, and see this, because they wrecked a mess on her favorite orcs. She shrugs it off like she's already pushed her luck far enough, then decides it's go time head back to the nearby mansion and spill every last detail to her bosses. The glass slams onto the table with a violent crack as a hand clamps down hard on it. Dolan snaps over the latest sales reports, raging that the numbers are pathetic, demanding to know why they're dropping, and grilling the staff are they even trying to squeeze every last win out of their patients anymore. One of the goons tries to blurt out, "We're doing our best." But the truth hits harder. People just aren't showing up anymore like they used to. And that's where it makes Dolan snap even harder. His face looks like it's about to explode, firing back that injuries and sickness don't just magically vanish on their own. Then a chill creeps across his face as it all finally clicks. Harris, the guy he kicked out, is behind every bit of this. Turns out Harris has been cozying up to the Stockwell Company and the Steelfang Group, and Dolan is sure he's trying to torch their deal with the Holy Institute on purpose. He leans over his desk and whispers Harris's name again and again, trying to force his brain to make sense of how things spiraled fast. His staff dropped another bombshell, saying there are rumors Harris is trying to join forces with the Spadia family. Dolan slumps, completely stunned by the name Spadia, and his thoughts snap to that arrogant noble who refused to sign an exclusive deal with them. Then he just jumps to his feet, screams Harris's name, and blasts him as a spoiled piece of trash, an eyesore who never should have left the dirt. Dolan throws his back to his men, convinced the Spadius of all people would never waste time on a loser like Harris. But he won't gamble. He wants Harris taken care of before this spirals out of control. He grips his glasses, face contorting into a wicked grin, then snarls that Harris is a total brat before losing it completely and swearing, on the spot, that he'll crush the guy for good. A few days later, the whole scene finally flips for the better. Harris is back on his feet outside his place, and as morning sunlight blasts down, he groans low and stretches his arm like he's forcing his body to wake up. He flexes, comes roaring back to himself, and tells the others he's finally at full power 100%. Then he thanks them like crazy, swearing those magic herbs did the trick and healed him for real, even if it means he's still feeling guilty for all the trouble he caused. Victoria doesn't let him slide. She crowds right into his space, eyes blazing, and tells him she's dead serious. Never pull a stunt like that again. As Chief Russell keeps his eyes on them, Jurek checks the herbs they just gathered and asks if they've got the right batch. Said they're lucky they had Harris's notes to guide them, while Victoria shoves in close, studying them like she's about to figure out exactly how much grinding they need. Victoria keeps going, blurting out that she's completely stressed. She's trying to whip up a new recipe on the spot and it's shaking her. She insists she trusts Harris and his skills, but making a potion like that while everything's crashing down, that was way beyond her limits. Harris just laughs it off, grinning like he's already won. Clutching a flask up high, then he starts bragging about his dream. A world where anyone can whip up their own medicine, and he can't believe the first real step comes at him that fast. He tells her he's just relieved they proved his theory works for regular people too. But Victoria snaps right back, yelling again. The medicine working is one thing, yet him almost getting himself killed is something she's absolutely not going to let slide. The whole mood flips the second Jurek spots something out the window. She snaps for Harris, saying she heard a scream and then steel clashing right outside the village walls, and the moment the words land, everyone goes into full panic mode. Jurek won't waste a second. She's already sensing real trouble, so she tells Harris, "I'm going out first," and orders him to watch the magic herbs closely while Harris yells that he's got it and swears he'll catch up as fast as he can. Victoria and Leisha watch in silence as the cat girl sprints off and vanishes into the distance, leaving her behind. Ditching the rest of the crew to scramble, he sprinted right by an utterly bewildered Russell. The chief bolts into a run too, peppering Harris with, "What's the rush?" as they barrel toward the village gates, and Harris shouts back to him all the way. He tells you Jurek heard screaming all the way outside the village, and she's already taken off to investigate. Russell can't believe the girl's insane hearing, because just as they crest the hill, Victoria spots the wreck and immediately asks, "Is this the place?" When they finally arrive, Jurek is already looming over the bandits she just destroyed. Just as the rest of the crew finally barrels in on the ambush site, Harris snaps, shouting at Jurek to tell him exactly what they're up against. Jurek grins and says they already wiped out the dozens of bandits right here, and Harris whips around to the battered guard by the carriage, demanding to know if those were the same men who got attacked. "Oh, the men who got attacked, yeah." The ones noticing the Harris barrels in with his kit as the man bleeds out, barking for him to stay perfectly still while he checks those wounds. Bloodied and beaten, the injured guard staggers up, blurts out, "I'm sorry I slipped and let my guard down." Then turns to Harris and asks if he's really a healer. Harris straps his kit on and grins. "I'm not exactly a healer," then tells the guy to breathe easy and hand the treatment to him. He yanks out a special plant, slams it onto the wound, and flash! A blinding burst of light erupts, shocking everyone in the room. The guard is utterly stunned by what he's feeling, and as he realizes this has to be something other than normal healing magic, panic kicks in fast. What the hell is happening? Harris leans in and reveals he's treating people with magical herbs. This brand new medicine works so fast that the results practically shout for him. Right as Harris wraps up, a voice from inside the carriage rolls out magical herbs again and again, like they've been starving for those words. A noble girl in a dazzling dress hops out of the carriage, straining to get a clear look at the guy guarding her. The guard greets her as Lady Emma as she strides over. Then she locks eyes with Harris and asks if he's the legendary magic herbalist she's been hearing about. Harris jolts at all the attention, then quickly confirms that yeah, he's exactly the man she's searching for. Emma's eyes light up with pure relief, and she blurts that she's finally found him, then immediately starts explaining that her family desperately needs his help. Emma locks eyes with him and asks if he'll team up with her and Harris, and he's just standing there, locked in place, totally frozen, sweat pouring down, as she grips his hand and tilts her face up at him, with those big, hopeful eyes, begging him for an answer. Behind them, the entire crew just stares as the moment plays out. Leisha and Jurek, totally baffled, while Victoria is crumpling with embarrassment for every single second. A massive, bone-chilling scream erupts across the entire village out of nowhere. It's a lot to swallow, especially since Harris was just a normal guy who got booted from the Raynard Holy Institute because the whole place ran on local corruption. He was packed with one bad decision after another, but it all pushed him to pack up and move to the remote village of Delos, where he finally landed a real home, all because the people he helped before, like Lord Bailey and even the grumpy village chief, yeah, him too. Ever since he moved in, new faces keep crashing into his life, and old ones come back harder. Victoria, Jurek, and of course Leisha. He even pulled off the impossible, saving the village from a brutal orc invasion that had everyone stuck in non-stop chaos. After everything, he finally snapped into focus and decided his whole life would be devoted to spreading magic herb medicine across the world, proving there was a better way to heal, one that didn't have the corrupt church anywhere near it. But right when he's about to make that massive life decision, Emma hasn't even let go. She's still there, gripping his hands, begging him one last time to form a pact with her, and Harris just freezes, totally speechless. Emma clears her throat and warns that her words could spark a huge misunderstanding, especially since Emma clocks how it came out and immediately blurts, "I'm sorry." She apologizes fast to clear up the confusion. She steps up, gives a crisp introduction, and tells everyone she's from the Spadia family, then demands Harris as her exclusive magic herbalist. Harris just froze on the spot, stunned beyond words, barely managing to say something about how he was an exclusive hire. The whole crew scrambles into their carriages and barrels down the road as they keep chatting. The night lays it all out. Turns out their old healer is hanging up their boots, and they've been panicking ever since, desperate to find someone new. Harris finally snaps the puzzle into place, realizing why everyone dragged themselves this far just to find him. The knight steps up and flat out confirms that the rumors are true, that he's been living right nearby in Delos village. Emma snaps that they've got to go visit the local lords at the Antruth estate next, and the knight warns they must play by the rules, because grabbing a worker from the area is basically poaching. That night, Knight bows his head in disgrace and admits it was just him because they were sneaking in secret when the bandits finally struck. During the trip, the original horses freaked out and bolted, but Lord Rome saved the day by getting them a brand new carriage. Then they finally roll into the ore. At the massive Antruth residence, inside that fancy mansion, a voice starts asking Lady Rosara how she's been feeling lately, and it cuts off right as Rosara lets out a little laugh. And right away everyone remembers she got checked just the other day. Then she grins and says, "I'm actually doing great." Like things only got better from that moment. Harris practically beams at the good news, then hands her the medicine and demands she take one packet every morning and every night. Russell stares at the whole scene like he just saw a ghost, blurting out, "Is this another magic herb potion?" Because he can't wrap his head around how it cures diseases too, no longer just bandaging physical wounds. But Harris just smirks and says it's even better than that. Anyone can do this stuff. No magic, no special talent required. Even though Harris is crushing it, he admits his research is only halfway complete, and he's still hunting for a cure to diseases everyone else swears are impossible to fix. There's still a mountain of work left, like cracking How to grow herbs with way more magic power. And Harris looks worn out just from thinking about what's coming. Lord Bailey leans in and tells Harris he's truly banking on him for what comes next, then spins to Russell and points out just how many solid friends the guy has been racking up lately. Russell watches Harris storm off, and admits that at first he thought the guy was just another corrupt healer from the Holy Institute. But now, he can see the truth loud and clear. Russell gets all fired up and tells Harris he's fully locked onto his dream. Because the idea of a world where magic herbs can save everyone has him absolutely hooked. He yanks Harris over to Lord Bailey while everyone else just stares, watching the two of them square up. Rome strides forward and introduces himself as the Stockwell Company's second-generation head, and when he says Harris saved him as a kid, it becomes crystal clear now his entire business is devoted to blasting magic herbs across the world. Then Jurek from the Steel Fang steps in and introduces herself with a warm smile, saying it's a pleasure to meet everyone and that she's determined to repay the debt she owes Harris. Harris glances at his tiny companion, then turns to Lisha and asks, "Can you say hi to the group too?" So a tiny girl introduces herself as Lisha and tells Harris she's been helping him grow every single herb chillingly casual at first, then suddenly trying to switch into stiff, overly polite, formal mode. Rosara's face lights up as she gushes that she's thrilled Harris finally found such an amazing group of friends. Lord Bailey flicks his gaze to a brand new guest and demands, "So who's the little one?" But then he snaps to attention, spots who it is, and greets Lady Emma. She bows with perfect manners, tells him she's thrilled he's healthy, and admits she rushed in and saved him. Bailey tells him she rode a long road just to reach this frontier, and he figures she's here for one reason. Harris. Emma flashes a grin at Lord Bailey, praising him for cracking it so fast she wastes no time, and she blurts out that her family's personal healer has vanished, because for the Spade family, that's not just bad news, it's disaster. They're actually dukes in the Novel Kingdom, pure high nobility, so when folks in the region hear their name, they practically drop to the ground on instinct. Even noble families like the Intrus swear the Spades are in a league of their own. But Lord Bailey finally sees the glaring catch. They're stuck, unless they know what Harris wants, so Harris grabs the young healer, leans in, and demands his honest thoughts. Harris looked rock-solid determined as he said he was honored by the massive offer, then shut it down fast. Told them he couldn't accept it. The crew stares as Bailey flashes the idea of snagging the Duke's exclusive healer role, then practically promises a life of easy comfort. Like it's already a win. And Harris admits the entire plan feels unreal, like something out of a dream, yet But he clenches his fist and says he can't just keep living off other people's kindness. He glances at what he's built and says that with everyone's help, magic herbs finally thrive in Delos Village. Harris can't stop thinking about how Rome and the others already cracked magic herb medicine, because if they can do that, mass production might finally be within reach, and his final dream burns in his chest. Build a world where not one single patient ever gets left behind, no discrimination, no exceptions. So he lays it out. His next big mission is to brew stronger medicine and hunt down rare magic herbs that nobody has even uncovered yet. He blurts out an apology for the bluntness, then tells Emma, "If I become your family's exclusive partner, I can kiss working on my own terms goodbye." So he sinks into a deep bow to the nobles, then shuts it down, officially refusing their massive offer. Lord Bailey locks eyes with him for a heartbeat, then nods and blurts out that it all finally clicked. He now understands exactly why Harris got kicked out of the Holy Institute. He flails his hands and insists it's obvious the temple only kisses up to the duchy, so, yeah, a genuine guy like Harris was never going to belong with them. Emma adds that her father, Arnold, is merciless toward anyone who's lost their dignity, so he swore he'd never sign a deal with the Holy Temple, even if the guys reckon he sounds like a straight-up demon. Harris lets out an awkward laugh, then brings up Director Dolan, saying he can totally see the guy shamelessly buttering up any noble he meets just to climb higher. But Lord Arnold is the total opposite. He's a man of real integrity, backing the white lily crest of the Spadia family to the very end. Emma shoots him a gentle smile and tells him she totally understands, saying she can feel, right in her chest, how much everyone's got his back. She gives Lord Bailey, Lady Rosara, and even little Alicia their full credit for actually caring about him. The entire room freezes for one breath as everyone turns to each other, suddenly realizing just how much Harris has truly accomplished. From his tight bond with Rome and Zurich to the respect he's ripped straight out of the toughest village chief, Russell. Back in Delos Village, everyone's made it clear Harris has sunk into their lives so deeply they can't even imagine letting him go. Emma glances at Bailey and finally admits that even if her father Arnold has other plans, she thinks using their family power to bully Harris into joining is a total jerk move that would torch their reputation, so she's confident her dad will finally see it. They all freeze in that massive hall for a heartbeat, letting the weight of their choice slam into their chests. Harris starts to panic and blurts that he should just swing by as one of his usual stops, no exclusivity, just a normal visit. Emma lunges in instantly, grabs his hands, and crowds his space, demanding to know if he's truly serious. Emma scans the group and grins, saying she's totally in if her family back home is okay with it. She leans in and swears she's 100% certain Harris is the kind of guy everyone can trust, especially when it comes to real, legit skills with magical herbs. Emma grins and promises she'll send someone he knows if she ever needs help with anything. And Harris practically explodes with excitement, swearing he'll show up the second she calls. While the rest of the crew just stares, they finally loosen up, safe and settled now that everything's calmed down. Victoria scans the room and thinks, everyone here is insanely talented, and the urge to prove she matters hits hard because she's desperate to find a way to be useful too. But doubt crashes in. She starts believing she has zero business sense, no fighting skills, and no special powers like the others. Harris steps up with pure grit, saying it means everything to finally be seen for his research, and for his friends too. Then he turns to Emma and admits her support is a huge relief, and Emma just freezes in shock, realizing the only thing he ever wanted was to finally be seen and praised for his hard work. Rome weighs it in his mind like a thunderclap how huge it is for their reputation that the Spadia family sent a daughter to visit them in person. Emma flashes a big smile and promises she'll come back as often as she wants. Then Bailey's stomach drops with nerves, and he rushes in to explain that official patronage would probably land way better with the public. Emma snaps the whole room to attention and shouts, "Harris group!" And it leaves Harris completely blindsided, like the floor dropped out from under him. Because she doesn't stop there. She fires up the entire room, demanding they team up to build the world Harris is dreaming of. The whole group erupts into a massive cheer, and even though Bailey thinks it's totally ridiculous, his body moves first. Hay shoots his fist up and joins the hype anyway. The whole room crackles with energy as everyone throws a celebration together. Even the folks who never speak up are finally joining in, while Lady Risara lies on her bed, watching it all like it's her show. Risara hears those familiar footsteps closing in on the door and just grins to herself, chuckling that their little troublemaker finally made it back home. The moment the others hear her, their heads snap toward each other, and in the blink of an eye, the truth slams into them. The door blasts open, and Victoria Andrews storms in, screaming at the top of her lungs that she's back. Everyone freezes solid the moment the Andrews daughter bursts in, and the entire room erupts in shock. Harris scrambles to shatter the awkward silence by telling Victoria it's been forever and that he's just relieved she's doing okay, yet she glares back at him like she's staring at a ghost. She spots him in her house and freezes so hard she can't get a single word out, just standing there, stuttering, while her mind spins into a full-on storm. Emma just smirks through the chaos and tosses Victoria a laid-back hello, like the whole weird situation isn't even happening. Victoria shrieks at the top of her lungs, demanding to know why Harris and Emma are suddenly at her house. The shock hits her so hard her mind basically shuts off for over 4 minutes, while everyone else just freezes and stares as she loses it. Harris and the others scramble to get her attention, but she just stands there, frozen solid, hands clamped to her face. She finally snaps back to reality, quickly tugging her collar straight before pulling herself together. Victoria dips into a deep bow, blurts out an apology, and confesses she totally blacked out for a second and finally greets Harris properly after all this time. She looks everyone in the eye and blurts out, "I'm so sorry I made a huge scene in front of everyone." And then, she introduces herself with full formality, then proudly tells them she's studying right now at the Noel Royal Academy. Victoria claims she got lucky with a natural gift for healing magic, and now she's grinding every day to become a legit professional healer. From the bed, Rosara lets it spill. Victoria has been looking up to Harris ever since he saved her life. Victoria totally snaps, face blazing red as she blurts out at her mom for spilling a secret she was supposed to keep under wraps. Emma can't believe anyone from her family actually made it out to this remote estate until Lord Bailey barges in, staring at her like, "So you're really here just to scout Harris?" Lord Bailey cuts that idea off fast, and Emma jumps in saying they couldn't strike a deal, so she was ready to leave while Victoria just stands there completely stunned and clueless. Bailey leans in and asks Harris if he's truly certain about rejecting her, hammering the point that getting a job with a ducal house would basically lock in his entire future. But Harris holds his ground and lays it out. He already worked out a deal for house calls, so he won't get trapped in that exclusive contract. The moment Victoria hears the news, she snaps into a frenzy, yelling that the entire Andrews family is going to be massively grateful for the help. Emma blurts out the truth, and it totally blindsides Victoria. She freezes and lets out this awkward little noise. Emma admits they barely even hung out at the academy, and she's seriously hoping this downtime lets them finally get to know each other for real. She blindsides Victoria with a sweet nickname and then, right to her face, asks if they can be friends. Harris wraps up his explanation, and right then, Emma steps in, officially thanking him and Victoria on behalf of the entire Spadia family. Victoria spirals into panic, insisting there's no way she could ever be friends with someone as famous and high class as Emma, while Emma just stares at her gloves. Harris stared at the girl's hand, asked if it was a magic burn, then figured it was just from going too hard in her training lately, and Emma jumps in and says, "Staying locked on your goal is seriously impressive, no matter who you are." Then she insists on looking at the injury herself. She lights up at the thought of helping a true hard worker, then reaches out to Victoria and says she'd be honored just for a second to hold hands, which makes Victoria's jaw drop. She turns beet red, blurts that she'd love to, and insists the pleasure is all hers, staring at the offer like it's a dream as. Right as the two finally seal the deal with a handshake, Harris tells Victoria, "I love your drive," then snaps that she has to stop grinding her body past its breaking point. And just like that, everyone spills toward the front gates, where the carriage is waiting to haul the guests back to their homes. Harris waves them off, telling Emma to keep him posted if any other medical problems pop up that demand his attention as she leans out the window and calls out her thanks, telling him her dad's going to be over the moon because now they finally won't have to rely on the Holy Institute anymore. And it leaves Lord Bailey on edge. He watches them walk off and straight up wonders if Emma has some personal vendetta against the Institute. She figured she probably just can't stand how they've been acting ever since the new leadership took over, and once they did, everything started going downhill fast. Grasm glances back at the past and swears everything was way better under the last director, especially because Harris and Sir Gustav personally got him treated. He presses on, and even back then when Harris's mana was running low, his grit as an assistant still shined so hard that it's apparently the whole reason Lady Emma finally took notice. Victoria stares in pure wonder, her eyes glowing like a kid hooked on a tale of a legendary hero. Grasm lays it out. That's why Emma can't stand the Holy Institute's selfish games or the way they're abusing their healing power. And Harris is completely blindsided. Victoria thrusts her head out to tell Grasm to wrap it up, and the knight nods, then announces to everyone that they're finally heading out. Victoria swears she can feel Emma's elegance even through the carriage walls. And right there, Harris and the rest just freeze, utterly clueless about what kind of aura she's talking about. Suddenly, Victoria snaps to it. She realizes she almost forgot something huge. She yanks out a sealed envelope and tells Harris, "The headmaster sent you a letter," like he's got something crucial he needs to deliver. When she hands it over, she blurts out the only thing she knows: this thing is supposed to be insanely helpful for his medical research. Harris locks eyes on the letter, wondering what secrets it holds, then swears he'll drop by and pay his respects the moment things settle down in the village. Victoria shoots up and calls Harris out of the blue, catching him completely off guard right as he was about to. She's about to leave, and she tells him she's been burning herself out just to become a top-tier healer, but her real dream is to blend that magic with herbal medicine and save as many lives as she can. The girl spirals even harder, leaning in and telling him that's exactly why she has to ask for a massive favor, leaving Harris. He just stood there, frozen in shock, as Victoria pressed the question on the spot, asking him, right then and there, to take her on as his apprentice in herbal medicine. She tells him she's chasing Herb's real potential, the kind that blows past what normal healing magic can even touch, while Emma stands there, watching, and Victoria shoots Harris a nervous glance, calling his name again because he just stands there, silent as stone, back turned, like he's about. Harris grins to himself when apprentice hits, because it drags him right back to being a little kid, shouting at his old man, begging him to teach everything, just so he could finally help people too. In the memory, his father snaps his gaze up from the medical gear, and tells young Harris that taking on an apprentice is a huge ask, especially since he can't shake the feeling he's still figuring himself out, so he pats Harris on the head and tells him, "If you're serious about forging a new future for medicine, then we'll walk that road together." And that moment hits hard, like a memory that's still about to. Harris gets hit deep, and he forces himself to get it right this time. Then he turns to Victoria, and she snaps back at once, already braced for whatever he's about to say next. Harris locks eyes with Victoria and tells her, straight up, that if she's serious about medicinal herbs, her academy studies come first, and once she knows that, he's ready to stand beside her as a comrade in this new age of medicine, and he vows to drill her in on every last thing he knows. Victoria's eyes flare bright with pure excitement at the news, and she belts out a huge yes and grabs Harris's hand, practically vibrating with how excited she is to team up with him. As her carriage lurches forward, Victoria throws her arms up and yells at him to come see her at the academy ASAP, because they'll be waiting. A few days fly by, and Harris stays locked in at the house, sketching the real workings of plants like coagulation grass and calming grassol. He kept scribbling down the exact recipes for things like crimson lizard disease and wolf bite disease until he finally slammed the whole guide shut. He grabs the finished notebook, rushes it to the group, and fires a question at Rome, begging for a second opinion just to be 100% sure the info is. Rome scans it, grins, and declares it perfect. Because if anyone can get it, then the guild is absolutely ready to crank out big-scale production. With the whole team jumping in, they finally kick the magic herb potion production into full gear and start moving forward for real. The whole operation kicks off as the people of Delos village step up and take charge of growing every last magic herb. While they plow the fields, the Stockwell Company crew rolls in and takes over every bit of the processing work. Even the adventurers jump in, hauling those heavy crates with everything they've got to keep the whole operation moving on schedule. Village Chief Russell slams a hearty pat on Harris's shoulder, tells him to go, and vows the village is in his hands. Harris pumps his fist and declares he's headed to the academy for real, feeling locked in and ready to smash the next big step. As they hit the road, Harris fires off a grateful thanks to Rome for getting the carriage ready. But he's got even more to be thankful for. And on top of that, he made sure to thank her for hooking Leisha up with those brand new clothes. Rome shrugs it off like it's nothing, tells Leisha she looks amazing, and the second those words hit, the little girl erupts into giggles, pure joy bursting out of her. Inside the carriage, Harris can't stop thinking, what if it's not right for a big-shot company rep like Rome to be riding with them? So Rome just grins and tells him it's all good, she's got a crew of rock-solid people back in the village, handling everything. Rome tweaks her brand new glasses and swears she can't afford to miss a single business deal. Then Harris leans in, asks what's up with that look. And he leans out the carriage window, and when the stop finally hits, it's like the whole ride clicks into place. The whole crew huddles there right before the Noel Royal Academy, and, whoa, that place is gigantic. Then they stride across the bright courtyard, slipping past the massive fountain, and push toward the main entrance. Jurek whips his head around, stunned by the school, and Harris leans in to ask if this academy is her very first time. Victoria tells Jurek she's used to rough adventure towns and dungeon grinds, and that's exactly when Jurek finally admits this fancy place is a welcome change of pace. Harris yells for everyone to stay locked in so they don't lose the way, then grabs Leisha by the moment and demands she stay right by his side. And the little girl screams, "I've got it," while Rome keeps needling Harris for acting like a stressed-out schoolteacher. In one of the academy's upper windows, an old man leans out, clocks their arrival, and shouts at them, "Harris, the demon herbalist," before the scene even settles. And he muttered to himself, convinced Harris was about to turn something to good use any second. Inside the school, a glowing egg rests on a table, buzzing with a voice that swears it'll unlock a vision for the world, yet nobody can tell what's really about to burst out of that shell. Back outside, Victoria beams from ear to ear and flings her arms wide, practically summoning the group in. Then she cheers that they've been waiting for them to finally show up. Harris thanks her for making time to come meet them like this, and the rest of the crew just drinks in the view as. As they start crossing the grounds, Harris clocks it right away. This is the very first time Leisha and Jurek have ever set foot inside an academy. Victoria starts boasting like crazy, telling everyone they've got it all, fancy high-end gardens and even full-blown arenas where the students can train. Leisha and Jurek stare in total awe. But Victoria cuts in, exploring can wait. Right now, the mission is simple. Get everyone to the headmaster's office. As Harris strides through these giant hallways, he can't shake the feeling that the place is just too massive. Every single time he comes back, it still hits him like a wave. Victoria sticks with the tour didactic, talking of how the school draws students from every corner of the kingdom, training them for magic, fighting, glory, and everyday classes alike. She tells him it's all because the academy only lets in the absolute best of the best. And that's exactly why the vibe feels totally unreal compared to anywhere else. Rome takes in the lavish grounds and nods like, if these students are true elites, then the school better look this perfect too. Victoria strides through the halls, shouting for everyone to follow her, and the second she points, you can see the moment about to happen. They slam to a stop in front of a pair of colossal doors. Harris clocks the place immediately, but something about the way they loom feels different. About this entrance feels different. Now he can feel an insane weight of pressure pouring from inside the room, and he can't even finish the thought just yet. Right as they're frozen in place, a voice from the other side yanks them forward. Come on in. Inside, the academy's top brass weight headmaster Milo and vice headmaster Norman and Milo grins and welcomes everyone, singling out Harris like, all right, Herbmaster, show us your magic. Harris gives a respectful bow, then says, it's been a while, and apologizes for keeping everyone waiting for the formal greeting. Milo tells him to chill, saying he knows just how brutal things got for Harris after he got thrown out of the Holy Academy. Then he leans in and swears he even heard about the massive invitation Harris got from the elite Spadia family and Harris straight up admits it's real, then reveals he made one move. He decided to shut the offer down. Milo takes that in and thinks, if Harris brushed it off, he probably wouldn't even care about an invite to this academy. Harris starts apologizing to the headmaster, insisting that the school's environment is truly amazing. But he's got his own path to follow. Milo peers out the window and blurts, asking if he's really the guy roaming the village to study herbs and lend a hand. Then Norman snaps that it's time to get going, and Harris just nods, confirming that's exactly what he's been doing. Victoria steps up and fires off, asking Harris if he finally read her letter. Harris nods and says he did, thinking it's all about getting him fresh supplies for his research. Headmaster Milo mutters under his breath for a heartbeat, then snaps Norman over like, "Come on, bring out the special thing." The crew leans in, and there it is, a weird patterned egg sitting in a box, and Harris gets completely blindsided, just staring at it, stunned. Norman tells them it's not some random egg at all, it's a familiar's egg, and he's almost certain it's about to come in clutch for someone with Harris's skills. Harris stares at the egg, and sparks instantly start racing through his head. What if he brought home a whole new familiar? It makes him think of Leisha, born from a magic herb who's already stepped in for him again and again with her powers and her kindness. He realizes this: if some new partner can back him up as hard as she does, then he'd be insanely lucky to have them by his side. Norman points out the egg looks like it's seconds from cracking, but the contract paperwork will drag on, so he tells Harris to head to the academy and scout it out while they wait. Harris says it's been ages since they've stepped foot in the academy, and you can practically feel everyone buzzing ready to see the place. The group strides through the doors into the main hall, then Harris freezes mid-step when he spots a massive crowd waiting. Students swarm in on them right away, pestering Harris for herb lessons, grilling Rome for tips, and even pleading with Jurek for a spar, while a few girls go, "Hey Leisha, come join our tea party." Because, yeah, she's dangerously cute. Harris is completely thrown off by the sudden noise, while Victoria just stands there stunned, asking herself why this school is losing its mind all of a sudden until she finally remembers she bragged to everyone about how Harris saved the day at her parents' place. Then her story rockets him into local celebrity status, and Victoria feels sick with guilt for blowing everything up, so she blurts out an apology, while Harris just laughs it off, knowing there's no turning back now. Rome insists he's actually happy to talk, because these students could be future customers, while Jurek and Leisha are all in to spar, hang out, and throw down. Harris nods and tells the students he'd be thrilled to show them a few tricks with magic herbs, right up to the moment. Victoria bursts in and yells that her classes are over for the day. No way she's missing out on the action. The entire crew surges with energy and decides to turn the whole day into one massive group training session for everyone. The group jumps straight into it. Harris drops to his knees in the grass, showing the students exactly how to handle those rare magic herbs. Near the scene, Jurek rips into a wild flip over a sparring student, while Leisha lounges like she's at a tea party, kicking back the whole time. One student stares at Rome with full-on awe, thanking him and swearing he'll grow his family shop big enough to trade with him. Rome flashes a grin, promises he's got something great to look forward to, and tells the kid to keep grinding then. Then the girl sparring with Jurek grinds to a stop, gasping as she finally admits she can't even get close to landing a single hit. Jurek grabs her hand, praises how razor-sharp her swordplay is, then warns her she'll need smarter tactics to take down opponents who move even faster. At the tea table, the students thank Leisha for such a laid-back, cozy time, and she smiles back that the pleasure was all hers right up until she says, As the daylight fades, a student leans in and promises Harris she'll be back after graduation ready to dive into more magic herb lessons. Harris flashes a confident nod and promises, "I'll be right here when that moment hits." While, as the students stare, stunned, the truth hits them. Harris and his crew are just good. They're on a totally different planet. Victoria reassures herself that her noble training is plenty good, but then real-world combat hits, and she realizes it's a whole different beast. Harris pipes up and says that it's not just skill magic herbs secretly build your basic stamina, and Victoria's eyes widen as he flips. He flips through his notes and lays it all out certain. Herbs can kick blood flow into overdrive and help the muscles heal way faster than usual. He says that if you mix these with regular training, you'll forge a way stronger body no matter that the herbs were originally meant to heal. Harris thrusts his research notes into Victoria's hands and tells her he's handing them to her, leaving her stunned, staring at him like, "Wait, are you serious?" He swears it's true, then quickly reminds her that her normal schoolwork still has to come first. Victoria clutches the book to her chest, grinning ear to ear, and swears she'll grind like crazy to meet his expectations. Jurek throws Victoria a fist bump and tells her they're sparring again next time they cross paths, and Victoria's totally in. Right then, the vice headmaster bursts in with a grin and tells them the contract's ready, so Harris and Leisha tail him straight to the office. But out of nowhere, someone shouts Harris's name from behind, so he slams the brakes, whips around, and hunts for the boys. A bunch of students huddle up to thank Harris for his mind-blowing lecture on magic herbs, practically begging him to return and teach them again. Harris leans in and says he's all in, then sets out to make sure every single person truly grasps how much raw power magic plants can unleash. As the kids head out, the vice headmaster watches them disappear and can't help thinking the school's dedicated botany department might finally become real. The headmaster spots how much the students soaked up today, and Norman turns to Harris to thank him for that insanely productive session. Milo can't stop gushing about how awesome it is to see everyone this hyped, and he flat out says it's a massive win because watching them this excited feels incredible to him. He catches himself rambling, snaps it shut, and tells Harris, "All right, time to touch the egg and kick off my magic." Harris shoots his hand out, panic gnawing at him, as he realizes his magic reserves are dangerously low for a familiar contract. Then he remembers the village always had his back last time. And the headmaster clocks his hesitation and jumps in, offering extra mana if he's running short then, right at that moment. Then Lesha strides right up, grabs his hand with a huge grin, and makes it crystal clear she's ready to back him up. Harris snaps his head back, realizes she's come to help, shoots her a quick thank you, and they both set off forward together. Leisha snatches Harris's hand, gets all fired up, and screams that it's contract time, so they better go all out and pour everything they've got into it. Both of them dump all their power into the egg, and a blinding blast of light erupts across the whole room as the magic finally locks in. Mokti and the others lean in as the egg finally starts to split, and she blurts out that the shell is breaking at last. And the light blasts harder as the egg finally splits open, hatching right before their eyes. As the lights begin to fade, Harris throws up his hand to block the glare, and then he sees it, the exact moment they'd been waiting for, finally unfolding. A tiny, round, owl-faced little bird just sits there, and everyone's staring like, "Wait, are you really the new familiar we're supposed to get?" The whole group huddles around the little guy on his cushion, and Victoria and Jurek can't stop staring because that tiny bird is truly a magical familiar. Milo steps in, flashes a confident grin, and says the birth went flawlessly. He's convinced it's all because Harris and Leisha worked together like they were made for it. Harris reels from the fact that their combined power pulled this off, then cracks a joke, so yeah. Leisha basically becomes the bird's big sister. Leisha's eyes light up. She's totally moved and overflowing with excitement, because she can't wait to officially be a big sister to the new little guy. Leisha freezes for a split second when Harris tosses out the idea of the big sister role, then she snaps into full height mode and swears she'll do her best while the little bird chirps right along. Norman shoves a guidebook into the familiar's hands, telling everyone that as long as the little guy keeps getting food and mana from the village, he'll be fine. Harris thanks them for everything, then the moment hits before they lift a finger. That little bird needs a name. He explains that giving a familiar its name is a huge ritual what seals the bond between the bird and its owner as official. So Jurek blurts it out her old swordmaster's name was Nash, and he insists the bird's features matches perfectly, like spot on. His Victoria looks completely stunned and demands, "Wait, are you talking about the legendary Nash deal with the Steel Fang clan? The one they call the Falcon Sword?" The crew admits the clan's legendary name wouldn't exist at all if Hero hadn't crushed through everything back in the day. Harris swears he's heard every story about how fearless that warrior was, then leans into the bird and promises he just wants it to grow up just as reliable. He drops to one knee and declares the kid's new name. Nash then turns to the bird and asks how it feels to wear that identity. The little bird chirps up a storm for its new master, and Victoria lets out a huge breath of relief because that tiny guy is actually obsessed with him. Harris tells Nash he's counting on him from here on out, while Leisha warmly welcomes the little guy, because now their bond is official. The bird's magic herbalist connection is real, and it's finally official too. Headmaster Milo leans in and tells Hera, "We're heading back to the village soon, so put the little guy to work right away," but Harris can't help but doubt it. Nash was just born, and he's way too tiny to pull off anything yet. Norman just shrugs it off and laughs, saying the Academy's familiars are on a whole other tier. Then he swears that bird will be ready to jump in before he even realizes it. Harris watches as the others tell him to just tap the magic stone on the bird's forehead and pour a little mana into it. Harris hesitates, not fully buying the magic part, but the moment he tries it, a blinding flash erupts, and Nash suddenly swells into a giant bird that looms over everyone in the room. Leisha can't stop raving about how unbelievable it is, and Victoria shoots back that. Sure, her own guild trains bird familiars too, but she's never seen anything anywhere near this level. Norman tells Harris that after the trip is over, he only has to stroke the stone no mana needed to shrink him back down, but warns him to stay away from it while they're still in the air. As Norman races off to grab a riding saddle for the bird, Milo drags Harris aside and drops into a much more serious conversation. When Harris asks if anyone's heard what the Holy Academy's been up to lately, he already knows it's tied straight to Director Dolan. Harris finally tells the headmaster, "I haven't heard a single word from my old workplace since they kicked me out that day." But Milo fills him in since the sanctuary kicked him out. Group after group has axed their contracts with them. Norman jumps in, warning Harris to stay on his toes, because once that director snaps, nobody knows what he'll do. The headmaster leans in and tells Harris this: when things turn brutal, it'll be the ones who truly trust him who show up right there to have his back. Victoria and Jared burst in on the spot and snap at Harris to get out of the Holy Academy because their schemes don't scare them at all, and Jurek even swears he'll cut down anyone who dares try anything. Victoria promises she'll pitch in too, and little Leisha makes sure everyone hears it. She's not getting left behind for a second. With his eyes sweeping over his friends and the massive bird Nash, Harris just stands there, heart pounding, and blurts out a heartfelt thanks for always having his back like this. Milo grins at Harris and tells him he's lucky to have a squad like that because with people like them, no problem's about to get too huge to handle. The old man straight up admits he's got huge hopes for the world Harris is trying to forge with his magic herb research, and Harris yells that he'll never let him down, and right as everyone piles onto Nash's back, they're ready to roll out and prove he's right. The giant bird burst into the sky, sweeping the entire group high over the academy grounds as they finally set off on their trek back to the village. Milo and Norman stand shoulder to shoulder as they watch Harris walk out with the girls, and Milo leans in to tell him, "You've got an amazing crew here, people who truly believe in you." And as Nash rockets into the sky, the headmaster throws in this wild truth: every single person at the academy is backing him too. The students crane their necks, staring at that giant bird as it vanishes into the clouds while Harris stares down, stunned at how fast the academy shrinks in the distance. Leisha is living her best life during, like they're flying so high, but Victoria is losing it. She's trembling so hard that one slip means she'll splat from this height and turn into a pancake on the ground. Jurek tries to steady the moment, telling Victoria casually, like it's nothing, that she'll be fine if she just spreads the impact when she lands. But the second those words hit, Victoria's fear spikes even harder so Nash just keeps blasting through the sky, diving like he can't be stopped. And yeah, Jurek's claims are absolutely impossible for anyone who isn't a full-on, superpowered adventurer. Back in Delos Village, Chief Russell can't stop wondering whether Harris and the others even made it to the academy, yet then one of the guys shrugs and says that walk is so brutal, they shouldn't expect to see them back for at least a few days. But just like that, a colossal shadow crashes over the ground. Both of them lock up in panic, staring straight up, while Russell scrambles to figure out what the heck is going on. Leisha bursts into loud cheers that she's finally home as Nash touches down, and Harris beams with relief while Victoria is still sobbing after that wild flight. The village feels dead silent, and that eerie calm is exactly how the entire ride to the academy ends. Russell nods along, while Harris clocking it in real time. This village has been getting way livelier, and it's not slowing down. As the chief talks up how lively they'll be, the moment the group steps out for the academy boom and as a visitor shows up, Harris is totally thrown off that someone came chasing them, so he's totally stunned when Grasm steps into view, and Grasm breezes in with a hello and says it's been a few days. But Harris barely hears any of it, because the real shock is the stranger beside him, so he fires back asking what brings them here, who the other guy is, and then the younger guy tells everyone his name Victor and says he's with the Royal Knights of Noel, and Harris can't wrap his head around it, because why would a big shot like that be out here all alone? Victor leans in and tells you he just got word from Grasm. He already knows the whole story of how Harris signed a contract to run home medical visits for the Spadia family, and Harris starts to clock the outcome. And Victor cuts right to it, asking if Harris will also handle medical checkups for the Royal Knights. He admits the Knights are fed up with the Raynar Monastery lately, because lately, things have gone too far, and the final straw is coming. Because their job means they're staring down death every single day, no breaks, no mercy. But the monastery is a complete disaster. The moment the Knights beg for help, and Victor realizes he's been roasting Harris's old home, so he snaps back, apologizes for being rude, but Harris just shrugs it off and tells him, don't stress, because the truth is, these days he barely trusts the academy either. Victor thanks everyone in the village because the moment their help kicks in, the magic herb production rockets forward, and with Nash's wings, they'll deliver the meds to the knight's order in no time. He tells the group to hand the knight's consultations to him alone, and that choice earns Chief Russell's sincere gratitude as both sides finally seal the deal with a hard, final handshake. Grasm thanks them all over again, but the smile slips, his expression turns sharp. He leans in and says there's one last thing they have to talk about, and just like that, Victor steps in, lays it out, turns out the knighthood got their marching orders from the big bosses pulling the strings. Their mission? Track down one ultra-specific special flower. This isn't just another plant, it's something huge. Victoria hears that and can't believe Harris would be pulled into a flower hunt. Then it hits her, and the puzzle clicks into place. Victor tells Harris he's got the sharpest eye in the room, and confirms their suspicions. This flower isn't just any plant, it's a rare magical herb. The moment Harris hears there's a magic herb, his attention snaps like a trap. Because if that's real, his own field of study might just be the key. And so Victor shoots them an apology because right now, the knights are still missing a bunch of details. Everything's kinda blurry, but it gets even worse when he drops the bomb that the Holy Institute is hunting. That same flower, too. Harris can't even process that his old workplace is already in the mix. Harris threw one last glance back at the Holy Temple, still convinced they only tossed him out because his herbal medicine was wrecking their healing magic money machine. But Headmaster Milo had practically barked a warning, be extra careful, and yeah, the old man could feel it. The temple was cooking up something shady behind the curtain. While the rest of the group huddles in worried silence, Harris can't stop spiraling. What if this demon grass is hiding a secret link to the sanctuary he's been shut out of? It makes him stare at that mysterious fire like, what is the deal with you, really? The crew rockets over in a quick hop to the snowy peaks of the Woodbury Fief, an ultra-remote corner of the Knoll Kingdom where Victor shouts that the trip, which usually drags on for days over land, somehow gets crushed into a single flight to get them done. Harris ruffled Nash's head with a friendly pat, praising the big owl for a great job as he thanked him for the ride. When they finally hit Lake Gyosu, Leisha practically bursts with excitement and shouts at everyone to stare at the breathtaking water. Andric points out that they're standing at Dawnmoon Lake, one of the kingdom's 3 biggest mysteries, and the crystal-clear water and endless forests make it look like a dream you can step into. Harris drinks it all in, then suddenly realizes this wild chaos is exactly where they'd stumble on a rare magic plant, the demon grass flower. Harris can't stop thinking about how they've dragged themselves all the way to these mountains, because the kingdom's knights begged them to track down the rare demon grass flower, and while everyone else scrambles to get ready, Rome drops the bombshell. He's staying behind a little longer to pack up all the supplies before he meets the group later. The crew rolls up to the Woodbury estate at the edge of the Noel Kingdom, and when the gate guards spot Victor, they swing the gates open and let them through. As they stride through the fancy halls, Harris can't stop thinking about the twist. Lord Zykel, the man running this place, is actually the Spadia family's head's brother-in-law. Because Zykel's a duke's close kin, Harris knows he has to button everything up and act perfectly. One slip, and he'll ruin it all. Which sets the stage. That's what finally cracks Victor open. He admits he's been hating these stiff formal events for ages. Then Harris just throws back a laugh and says he feels the exact same way. Victor tells him to chill and keep his head clear, because come on, no one's actually going to try to eat him. Jurek twirls her dagger and declares that anyone who messes with her will become fish right there, while Harris just prays she'll keep the peace. Right then, Lord Seika Woodbury finally bursts in with a huge grin, apologizing to everyone for the long wait to see him. Victor tells him it's totally fine, then he thanks the Lord for actually making the time to meet with their group today. Lord Zykel locks eyes with Harris and fires off. So you're the weed pharmacist everyone's been talking about lately. And Harris shoots a respectful bow, introduces himself like a real professional magic herb pharmacist. And right beside him, Jurek and Victoria just stand ready. Zykel shrugs it off with a laugh, then grins and says he's amazed Harris had the nerve to flee the Reynard Sanctuary and hook up with the Stockwells and the Spadia family. Harris waves it off, insisting he's only pulled this off because everyone around him has been so kind lately. The Lord even brings up how Harris has a rock-solid link to the Royal Knights, and Victor instantly feels uneasy. As everyone slips into the sitting area, Zykel can't stop chuckling to himself like he just stumbled on something ridiculously interesting. And in his head, he's already calculating this kid's a gold mine, and he's absolutely going after his cut of that action. He tries to play it cool, warning Harris that too much success can land a guy in hot water. But Victor barrels in and cuts him off right away. Right then, an older knight in heavy armor stomps into the room and blurts out an apology for cutting into their talk as He locks eyes with Harris and snaps that he's got to teach the kid a lesson for being that disrespectful. Sokol just shrugs it off with a loud laugh, swaying them away from it, then pivots and asks Harris if it's true. He's really there to survey the plants in the Great Weimar Forest. Tapaman tumyu kambayu, armam queri vidams, Harris nods, confirmed it. High Command of the Night Order had truly handed him a direct order to do exactly that. The Lord pauses for just a heartbeat, then gives the nod, officially handing Harris the green light to dive into the woods. He whips out a round, patterned transit pass and hands it to Harris, saying all he has to do is flash it to the guards, and they'll let him through. Harris snatches the pass, shoots a quick thank you back, and gears up to roll out with the rest of his crew as, right when they're about to step out the door, Sokol yanks him to a stop and drops the real question he's been dying to ask. He pushes Harris and asks, "Why did you even go against Director Dolence?" Because honestly, he could have coasted through the academy in total comfort if he'd just kept his head down. Harris glances away for a beat, forced to admit Sokel's right life really can feel that effortless. But he locks eyes with the Lord and says, that kind of profit is only possible because they hide their patience behind it like a shield. He tells you the whole world runs on people's pain, those who can't afford help, and those who lose everything just to cling to life. Harris stands his ground, replaying every person he's helped in his mind, and he realizes those smiles hit harder than any status this world could ever give him. Sokol just bursts into laughter, then tells Harris that for a guy in his spot, he's aiming at some seriously noble goals. As the group heads out, the Lord keeps his eyes on them, and mutters that he can only hope the day never arrives when Harris regrets the choice he made. He shouts one final warning that the magical beasts in that forest are pure monsters, so they better stay sharp. And the crew finally storms through the towering front gates of the estate. Yet the talk about Sokel is nowhere near finished, because the stern knight glared over his shoulder, snapping that there's a hard line no one should get away with mocking others. Grasm snaps at him to shut his mouth and watch every word, because they're still standing on Woodbury land. But the knight won't drop it. He presses Grasm, demanding to know if he didn't catch the look on that guy's face, like he was definitely plotting something dark. Jurek cuts in and points out, no matter how it looked, the Lord didn't give a single crack for an attack. His guard was razor sharp the whole time. She figures it's because he's part of the Spadia bloodline, so every single day someone's hunting to take him out. And he has to stay on guard. Harris blurts out that his biggest worry is the Holy Order, because they might be hunting down Demon Grassflower. So Grasm nods and says Director Dolence won't just walk away. And because the Reynard Holy Order is the kingdom's only medical safe haven, nobles and knights kneel to them like they hold the cure to everything. Grasm admits that he really wants to believe the knights aren't just a tool for someone's selfish agenda, but he can't shake the feeling that his hope is probably all wishful thinking. He rolls out a secret mission the moment he gets there, praying none of the shady creeps are plotting against them from the shadows. Harris falls silent for a beat, and Grasm snaps into action, realizing that just standing there and overthinking won't get them a single real answer. Harris snaps out of the bad vibes and tells the whole group that with everyone together, there's nothing to fear. He's leaning on them hard. And he's ready to say why, and drives the crew forward, shouting that it's finally time to plunge into the Widmark Great Forest. Meanwhile, at the Reinhard Holy Order, one person has completely snapped, screaming pure rage like they're about to explode. Dolence is tearing up his office, screaming at the ceiling, because the Spadia family and the knights have suddenly turned his life into a living nightmare. His assistant tells him their crew is barely stalling things for now, but he knows it's only seconds before everything collapses. Dolence takes a drink, grumbles that the knights are basically his bread and butter, and says their endless injuries are the reason his business stays alive, so he's not about to watch Harris steal his customers. One of his goons cuts in, saying he heard Harris and the rest of the crew already sprinted toward the Great Widmark Forest. So, yeah, that's huge, because everyone knows that place is straight up a nightmare stuffed with some of the deadliest magical beasts you can imagine. Dolence's face twists into something unsettling as he tells them, if the forest is truly that dangerous, then it really, seriously, you can't stop it. Once a few losers stumble in there, they get turned into nothing but monster bait. The hooded girl smirks to her core and says everyone will label it a tragic accident, that somehow makes what just happened less terrifying. And she's laughing at the fear. She decides she's done sitting still. She's gonna go check that bait and see if it's still holding strong. And Dolence leans in, telling her he's counting on her. But she has to keep her eyes on every single thing till the very end. Because once it's over, he'll just start laughing to himself. He can't stop thinking about Harris, and vows that once the monsters finally finish him, he'll bring flowers to his grave. Harris and the crew march into the woods, stepping straight into a blinding burst of light. The Witch of the Amberleides keeps staring into her crystal ball as it shows Harris and his crew have officially crossed into Woodbury territory right into. It's a nightmare out there. The woods are packed with deadly monsters, and it looks like one of the nastiest ones is already stalking its next victim. She scans the group and immediately knows one thing. Harris's friends and those young knights can't survive what's about to hit them alone, so she clenches her staff in both hands and finally decides it's time to step in. Mage'S flashes a massive smirk, knowing the moment she's been waiting for has finally arrived, time to steal the spotlight. The witch orders her to use her magic to help Harris, and Mage'S can't wait. She beams and tells her master, "I've got this." That top-tier mage straight up lunges out of the building, screaming that she's heading out. As she watches the girl disappear, the witch lets out a tired sigh, muttering about how the girl can't ever just use a door like a normal person. Then she brushes it off because, now that everyone's finally pushing toward the same target, they move to smash the darkness stalking the kingdom and forge the future Harris has been dreaming of. Back at camp, Rome finally catches up hauling an absurd amount of luggage and rushing over to the group with non-stop apologies for keeping everyone waiting. Victoria swings that massive backpack into view and tells everyone she's got the supplies and gathering gear locked and loaded. Harris grins like, "That definitely helps." As they finally settle in, Leisha swivels to the dark tree line and calls Harris over, her voice tense, her worry clear, telling him the forest feels wrong, like something's been off for a while, especially since the moon hangs high above and deep in the woods, 1,000 strange voices hiss and whisper in the dark. Harris pauses for a beat, and realization hits those strange voices aren't random at all. They're warning him that a whole new kind of magic herb is sprouting nearby. As they catch their breath, Victoria scans the trees and admits that a forest crawling with monsters makes her feel seriously on edge. But Harris is already one step ahead, telling her that if they truly stumble onto a brand new herb, they can start brewing brand new kinds of potions. Soon as the whole crew pushes through the brush, Victor can't shake what happened. Earlier, he's still reeling from that Woodbury estate mess, and he tells everyone he can't believe how it all went down, and you can tell he's still burning. He snaps that it's totally infuriating for anyone to label Harris a weed pharmacist or act like he's just raking in easy money, because that's straight-up disrespect. While they walk, Victoria blurts it out. Lord Zekel doesn't just have a bad name. The people straight-up don't trust him. Rome adds that having Lord Arnold as a brother-in-law has kept the corruption from ever fully surfacing. But the guild still stays on razor-edge watch, ready to pounce on any shady moves happening behind closed doors. Jurek finally gets it. Why they have to stay razor alert and ready to bolt the second anything happens. Because the next part changes everything. Seeing as the monsters hiding in the dark aren't just staring anymore, they're bursting forward, teeth bared and ready to tear in. Jurek lunges straight into the crowd and stabs with her daggers, while Grazum swings his sword to carve them back right after. When the dust finally clears, Harris surveys every blasted beast and admits it, plain as day he's just relieved the crew is there to deal with how packed this forest is. Victor starts flexing like he owns the place, telling Harris to back off and leave the whole fight to him, because he swears it's a total walk in the park. Grazum slams him down on the spot, snaps, "Keep your guard up," and hits him with, "Did you already forget what you learned the other day?" Victor starts begging him to shut up, but Grazum blurts out that Victor was left totally naked last time right as Victoria screams for Harris to come over. Harris strides over to see what's going on, and there he finds Leisha bouncing around like crazy in a brand new patch of plants. He drops to one knee and realizes this isn't just a plant, it's a magic herb he's never seen in his entire life. Victoria doesn't slow down. She keeps digging through the brush and spots even more rare finds hiding right there. Harris's bag is practically exploding, stuffed to the brim with every plant and herb they've gathered so far. Harris flashes a huge grin at the pile, practically buzzing that he's found a mountain of new magic herb types, and that this haul is way bigger than he ever imagined. Victoria craned her neck at the towering trees and said, "Even magic herbs still need sunlight to sprout just like normal plants." Because here, things were clearly not normal. It just screams how insanely packed with mana this part of the forest soil really is. Grazum grins at Harris, saying he's glad he finally found something useful. No more just flowers. And Harris nods as they keep walking. Harris says he's really hoping they can spot those magic grass flowers just as easily as they found the other herbs. Because if they can't, everything's about to get dicey. Victoria paused for a heartbeat, then zeroed in on the exact name of the flower he was hunting. She can't help but wonder, why is that sacred temple, the same one that tried to wipe out demonic herbs, now hunting these flowers too? What kind of shady scheme are they cooking up? But Harris cuts in and suggests maybe their old boss has finally turned over a new leaf. He's dropped the hate and somehow found real kindness. The entire crew just freezes, staring like, what are you even talking about? Until Victoria waves it off and admits she was just messing with them. Jurek's face goes grim as she admits the corruption they're trapped in won't be a quick fix in. And Grasm is totally on board, so Harris tells them, no stopping, let's keep moving and explore, while Victoria lights up and says she can't wait to keep working with the group as they push deeper. Suddenly, Harris halts mid-step and demands, is that magic weed I smell again? But Leisha just shakes her head hard no. She cranes her neck into the dense canopy, brows tight with fear, and blurts that she can't shake the worst feeling about this place. Just as she's trying to figure out where that awful feeling comes from, those creepy dark roots start twitching at her feet like they're alive. Victoria spots something barreling toward them and shrieks, look out! Right as a massive creature crashes down in their midst. Grasm and Jurek slice into the wooden monster, tearing it apart right in midair. Grasm towers over the scattered pieces and realizes he just watched a treat unfold, while Jurek gapes at the same thing, stunned that a monster like that could even be lurking in this forest. The guys start edging forward, but Jurek snaps, hold up, and makes them wait because she scans her surroundings and realizes trees don't belong here. Something feels wildly wrong. Jurek points out, if that thing is a real treat, Victoria, why are you acting like it's a problem? You're literally out here in the middle of a forest. But Jurek lays it out, trance aren't harmless at all. They're monsters that crawl out only in spots soaked in heavy, lethal miasma. Grasm starts laying out what it all means for them as Victoria leans in and demands what he's really trying to say. Suddenly, something slammed into the grass and hit him hard, yanking a pained grunt out of his throat, as realization crashed in his attacker is a wraith when three hooded skeletal spirits suddenly crawl out of thin air. Grasm crumples to one knee after the hit, while Harris bolts over to check on him, then the girls immediately yank their weapons up ass. Jurek bursts in at full speed, cutting off the spirits before they can wreck the group any further. Grasm clenches his teeth and snaps that, same as the trance. These specters don't belong anywhere near this stretch of the woods. Victoria keeps seeing them line up after line, and panic starts to creep in. What if these monsters aren't random, and someone's behind all of it, setting up the whole? The party stumbles forward one disaster after another as undead spirits swarm in from every direction. Jurek keeps her daggers poised, snapping that the ghost swings are easy to spot, but they can't land the killing strike. Grasm clenches his jaw and admits it flat out. They've got no way to finish them off, and since inspectors usually lock onto one area, the rule is to bring mages or clerics for magic and purification. Jurek whips her gaze back, realizing they're in deep trouble without that help, So Harris just stands there, locked onto the spirits, chanting purification and magic over and over, like he's begging the universe to send someone who can actually use those skills right this second. A bright, cheerful voice calls out, asking if someone was looking for her, and meanwhile, the whole group is still trapped, surrounded by those hooded skeletons. Then one of the wraiths gets obliterated by a brutal surge of energy. An explosion of light erupts so fast the whole party freezes in shock, and Harris glances up and there she is, Mage'S, standing her ground with her staff in hand. He spots her in an instant, but she's not just waiting there. She strikes a bold pose, smirks like she's daring the world to stop her, and flashes that massive grin like, I'm not done yet. After her first fire spell lights up the room, she grins and promises a few more moves as a real proper greeting, then she cranks into full high gear. He hurls an ice storm to start it, then slashes forward with a razor-sharp wind blade. Each blast tears straight through the skeletons, one by one, and she slams the final blow with a brutal earth hammer spell, smashing every last bit of those monsters into nothing. The explosion finally fades, and the dust drifts down like a curtain. Everyone's still staring. Harris and the others go stone still, because that power just hit them like a wrecking ball. Mage'S throws a dramatic pose and declares she's the beautiful wizard who arrived just in time to save Harris, while the rest of the crew just gawks at her like she's totally unhinged. She's suddenly blushing, panicking in place, and tells Harris to say something because she feels like a total loser just standing there. So he jumps in right away and quickly thanks her for saving their lives. Victoria thanks her and asks if she knows Harris, then Jurek starts to wonder just how tight those two really are. Harris just grins, casually drops that she's basically his future wife, and Yak lets that land, and the entire crew completely flips. Everyone erupts in the same instant, screaming pure disbelief like it hit all at once. He bursts out laughing, then snaps the truth into place. She's just a kid from one of his old patients. But Mage'S won't quit, still swearing up and down that he's dead serious. Harris tells him that his old patient was Amber, the Witch of the Mines, and she hadn't trained a student in years, until she sensed Mage'S raw potential. He straight up admits he saw her train back in the day, but even he never imagined she'd level up this hard. Jurek said she'd heard whispers that the witch was hunting for an apprentice. But she never in a million years thought it would be the girl standing right in front of her. The knights are clearly on edge, and Victor drops the bombshell that even the royal guard has to keep the witch under strict watch. Victoria looks totally rattled as she blurts out that this woman is known for one wild obsession. When she gets bored, she redraws the world maps from scratch. Mokti can only crack nervous laughs about her master's awful reputation. Yeah, every ugly bit is true. So she can't even bring herself to defend him. Harris demands why a student of some big-shot witch is out here, and Mokti only giggles before she blurts that her master sent her. Harris is in the forest. She glances at the monsters and shrugs, saying the local beasts wouldn't stand a chance against them, like, this is nothing, for real. But when she yanks her hat down, she snaps to the group that the real danger is finally moving. Someone terrifying has started closing in. Mage'S suddenly slams on the brakes and demands loud and clear if everyone's noticed they're being watched right up in the air, up in the branches. A mysterious cat-eared girl flicks her tongue and straight up admits that Mokti is every bit as sharp as she remembered. With a smug little smirk, she tilts her gaze downward and goes, I never in a million years thought Mokti would be the one who'd show up. While the others scramble to track down where those eyes are coming from, Mokti just fires back at the trees, taunting the hidden girl and telling her she's way less invisible than she thinks. Mokti jabs her hand at the trees and screams that she's got the Watcher. Then she fires a blast that smashes into the ground while she and Harris refuse to move, bracing as debris rains down around them. Perched high on the branch, a shadowy silhouette just scoffs at the whole plan to flush her out. It's a girl with cat ears, she smirks. Then admits she finally realized she couldn't trick Mokti after all. Victoria asks if they know each other, and Mage'S shoots back that this is the troublemaker. Then he reveals she warned everyone about a girl named Shamanina. Mage'S then blasts Shamanina as a criminal who's using forbidden summoning magic, and it all leads to something bigger. Victoria and the knight finally pieced it together. Those monsters from earlier weren't hunting them at all. She was summoning them herself. Mokti glances aside for a split second and blurts out that this whole mess is just a full-on family scandal, but she snaps her staff back toward Shamanina and hurls an accusation saying she's only here to settle an old grudge. Shamanina doesn't even flinch. She just smirks and shrugs it off. Because she's already found the flower she came for. Harris stared up at Shamanina and felt his hopes spike. She might really be holding that rare demon grass flower, the one no one ever finds. But Shamanina casually lifts it up and confirms it on the spot, saying the plants were exactly where the notebook swore they'd be, leaving Harris totally floored. When he sees she's actually gripping his father's long-lost research journal in her own hand, he's frozen in total shock, snapping, how in the world does a criminal like you even know about Professor Gustav's work? But Shamanina just smirks, shuts him down with a, you've talked enough, and says her last job is to round up the whole group. She shoots her hand out, swears she'll finish every last one of them. Then, all of a sudden, a gigantic wall of thick fog crashes in and rolls over the forest floor, swallowing every path and trapping everyone inside. Harris snatches Leisha, yanks her tight to his chest, then squints through the blinding white fog and roars that he can't see a damn thing, but Jurek spots a flicker in the haze, and the second he does, he erupts, screaming at everyone to hit the ground. She whips her blade out at the last second and slams it into the monster's attack before it can tear them apart. Jurek whips her blade through the air, fighting to fend off invisible threats, while Harrison and Leisha huddle close together. Somewhere in the fog, the shaman cackles, then tells the crew she's hoping they enjoy being the snacks she's handed to the monsters waiting for them. Harris's panic explodes as he grabs Mokti and begs, can you just use your wind magic to blow the fog away? But Mokti thrusts her hand at him as her magic sputters out, and she blurts that the mist isn't just fog, it's packed with a spell that shatters mana. She demonstrates that every spell she casts vanishes the moment it slips from her fingers. She can't just blast the whole area clean and then she clocks it. She's trapped in a brutally bad spot. Out of the white rushes a monster with glowing eyes, and Jurek screams that the beasts are somehow locking in on them. Victoria keeps her eyes locked on the fight, wondering if the monsters have some brutal animal instinct that lets them pierce the fog. But Mage'S clocks it instantly. Everything feels way too perfect, like every beast in the pack is zeroed in on just one person in the group. Jurek snaps into focus and yells at Harris to dump whatever he's hiding in that pocket right now. Jurek whips his head toward Harris and demands to know if the thing in his pocket is some kind of pass, and Mokti snatches the round charm and blurts out, I knew you were hiding something like this. With everything spinning around Harris, he barely stays upright in the chaos, then blurts out, wait, what the heck is even happening? So Mokti leans in for a closer look and boom, he realizes that charm isn't just for show. It's packed with attraction magic. Victoria realizes the monsters have started backing off now that the charm is broken, and that revelation makes Harris starts to wonder if the Woodbury family is really in on a deal with the sanctuary trying to snag the magic grass in the notebook, but he just can't wrap his head around what they're truly after. Mage'S snaps in and tells him to save it for later, because right now, they've got to burn through this mist before it swallows them. She scrambles for a new plan because magic won't touch the fog then, right when she thinks she's out of options. Lisha lifts the tiny owl and tells Harris that Nash insists on taking this into his own hands, and the tiny bird bursts into the sky, hammering its wings as hard as it can to carve through the air. Harris tells them, because the owl's got wings, it can slam the air into a storm no matter how much magic is floating around. And even though Nash is pushing with everything he's got, Mage'S spots it. The mist is already sliding back in, closing fast, and they need something way more powerful right now. So Mage'S starts hunting for that last game-changing move to finally tip the scales. She shouts at Harris, demanding to know if he still has that magic herb medicine he slipped to her master only for Harris to ask, "You mean the one I gave Amber and he yanks the bottle out, tells her he has it. But inside, he can't even guess what she's about to do with it. Mage'S leans in, promises it'll work, then shouts for the win so the comeback gets rolling. Nash suddenly unleashes a gigantic burst of air that smashes the dark mist apart and clears the way in an instant. As the fog vanishes, the forest suddenly bursts open, and everyone just stands there, staring in the clear, fresh air. Mage'S lifts the empty bottle, bursts into laughter, and brags that Harris's special beauty oil somehow makes for surprisingly great fuel. The entire group just freezes staring at her in total shock because they can't wrap their heads around the fact she used beauty oil to save them. Victoria snaps the puzzle into place, staring at that beauty oil like, is that the only reason Amber keeps showing up at Harris's for those house calls? Mage'S just cackles, quoting her master, and asks if there's really anything in the world that matters more than a girl's skin. She even talks about how she got cursed flowers sprouting out of her ears just for asking about it, and Victoria can't stand that. Harris snaps the group back to silence, eyes forward, and tells them, "Get ready, what's beyond this mist is the real deal." With the smoke finally clearing, a pack of gigantic, terrifying monsters crashes into the scene right there to slam shut the only path forward. Mage'S instantly blares a warning. This isn't some easy, weakling mess from before. Jurek wastes zero time. He dives straight into the fight, ready to gamble everything as he clashes with these brand new threats. Even the seasoned knight seems to feel admitting these monsters aren't just tough, they're going to be a brutal handful to take down. While everyone's distracted, the hooded girl slams down a magic circle and calls up something massive to wipe them out. From way back, Amber watches the whole scene go down, yanks her hat tighter, and snaps at someone like they're a complete idiot. Mage'S slams on the brakes in the middle of the chaos, yelling for everyone to give her 1 second of their time. Victor steps up, takes charge like it's his battlefield, and tells her he'll handle it, then presses her hard. Does she actually have a real plan to get them out of this? Jurek keeps the pressure cranked up with her blades, warning them that if they don't act right now, they'll get crushed. Right as Mage'S steps into that giant magic circle, her glow erupts, and she tells them she's impressed by how fast they caught on. She casually asks Harris if he knows the different types of elemental magic, and right then, it hits him. Why on earth is she bringing this up now? Harris rattled off the 4 elements: fire, water, wind, and earth like she'd just used them, then kept hunting for the real point she was trying to land. Mage'S just grins and says, "Yeah, you're right," then drops the real truth. Those 4 are only half of what's out there. The entire crew freezes in place, staring at her in pure confusion, while Harris blurts her exact words back and keeps asking, "What do you mean by half?" As she surges up with dark energy, she fires off the explanation. Sure, there are 4 monotypes, but then there's the whole other side called anti-mono. Victoria stares at the dark power swelling in Maddie's hands, panic creeping across her face as she blurts that the whole thing looks insanely dangerous. Mage'S starts laughing like she's about to explode, totally hyped because she finally gets to use everything she learned in training with her master, and she clenches her hands tight, pouring every ounce of power into the space between them. Expressly, she's basically smashing mana and anti-mana together, and then, to forge her ultimate trump card, she locks onto the monsters. Then they finally realize just how doomed they are and start spiraling into full-blown panic. It erupts with a gigantic, blinding burst of light so bright it devours the entire battlefield in one heartbeat, and it leaves nothing but a dead, empty wasteland in its wake. Mage'S only smirks at the total annihilation, while Harris and Victoria just stand there, completely stunned.